Welcome to this channel. In this video the main show actor will be able to create Hellhound. He himself is also a Hellhound. After dying in his previous life, he is reborn inside of Hazbin Hotel, inside of Hell. The MC will try to thrive in this new world. A Hellhound is a mythological, supernatural canine link to the underworld. Death and evil commonly depicted as a large, dark-furred dog with glowing red eyes, sometimes wreathed in flames, acting as a guardian of hell or a harbinger of doom. While often menacing like Cerberus or Galma, some folklore casts them as protectors or guides for souls, appearing across global mythologies from Greek to Norse, often associated with cemeteries, crossroads, and the devil.
Hazbin Hotel Reborn as a Hellhound. Create Hellhound Army. Chapter 1, Teeth Before Answers. I died because of a cat. That was the last clean thought I had before everything stopped. No build-up. No reflection. One moment there was weight and pain, something feral and wrong crashing into me, and the next there was nothing at all. Then I woke up. Heat pressed against me first. Not fire, not burning, just a constant, dry pressure in the air, like the world itself was exhaling onto my skin. The ground beneath me was rough and uneven. I opened my eyes and immediately felt the wrongness of what I was seeing. The sky was red. Not a dramatic red, not moving, not glowing. Just red. Flat. Endless. It didn't shift or change. It simply existed, heavy and unbothered. Buildings rose at odd angles in the distance, crooked and stacked too close together. Neon lights flickered even though there was no visible power source. The air smelled sharp, metallic, and sour. I stayed still for a second, letting information come to me. I could hear too much. Voices far away. Shouting. Laughter. Gunshots. Glass breaking. Engines revving. All of it layered together, clear and distinct. My ears twitched at the sound without me thinking about it. That's when I noticed my breathing. It was low. Heavy. It vibrated in my chest when I inhaled. I looked down slowly, carefully, as if moving too fast might break whatever fragile logic still held the moment together. My hands were not hands. They were massive, clawed, and covered in dark fur. Thick fingers ended in curved black claws that caught the red light when I moved them. My arms were powerful, muscle packed tight under coarse hair. I turned one wrist experimentally and felt joints respond smoothly, naturally. No pain. No stiffness. I looked down further. Digitigrade legs. Broad chest. A long tail resting behind me on the cracked asphalt. When I shifted my weight, it moved with me, balanced me. When I focused on it, it flicked once, sharp and controlled. I was a hellhound. The realization settled without panic. Instead, my mouth pulled into a grin so wide it felt unnatural. Teeth slid into view, sharp, numerous, built for tearing. A short, rough laugh escaped my throat before I could stop it. "Oh, this is good," I said aloud. My voice was deep and smooth, confident without effort. It carried weight. I pushed myself upright, standing to my full height, and stretched. Muscle responded instantly. Strength flooded every movement. I rolled my shoulders once, cracked my neck, and felt fast. Lethal. Comfortable. I took a step forward. The ground crunched under my claws. I smiled harder. Across the street sat a motel. The sign buzzed faintly, letters flickering. The building itself looked half abandoned, windows cracked, door crooked. Voices leaked from inside arguing, laughing, something breaking. I didn't think. I moved. I crossed the street in seconds and hit the door with my shoulder. It shattered inward, wood exploding into fragments. The noise inside stopped instantly. 3 demons stared at me. One was tall and thin with too many eyes. One looked insect-like, wings twitching nervously. The third was bulky, jaw unhinged slightly as he froze mid-step. I stood there, looming in the doorway, tail swaying lazily behind me. I smiled. They ran. No hesitation. No bravado. One screamed. Another crashed through a window. The third tripped over a chair and crawled on all fours before scrambling out after the others. I watched them go, amused. Rude, I muttered. I stepped inside the motel. It was empty now. Broken furniture, overturned tables, a faint smell of cheap alcohol and smoke. I walked slowly through the lobby, claws clicking softly against the floor. That's when I felt it. Something inside me. Not hunger. Not pain. A pressure, like a coiled muscle that wasn't physical. I paused, focused inward, and tested it the way you test a limb after it falls asleep. The pressure responded. Information surfaced instinctively, not as words but as certainty. I could create other hellhounds. I blinked once. Well, I said lightly, that's new. I focused again, pushing into that internal pressure. Heat surged through my chest and down my arms. The air in front of me warped slightly, and then 2 shapes formed. They hit the ground on all fours, solid and real. Hellhounds. Smaller than me, but still large. Black fur, red eyes. They looked up at me immediately. No hesitation. No confusion. Loyalty. I felt it clearly, like a tether snapping into place. My grin widened. Then my chest tightened. I staggered half a step, claws digging into the floor. The strength in my limbs dipped, subtle but noticeable. My breathing grew heavier. I straightened slowly, testing myself. I was weaker. Not fragile. Not helpless. Just reduced. I understood instantly. Creating them cost me strength. I looked at the 2 hellhounds. They watched me closely, waiting for direction. Their ears twitched in sync. One tilted its head slightly. I laughed softly. Fair trade, I said. Loyal army, shared power. I can work with that. I gestured toward the door. Stay alert. Don't wreck the place unless I say so. They moved immediately, spreading out, guarding instinctively. Time passed. I explored the area around the motel, keeping my movements casual. Demons gave me space. Some stared. Others avoided eye contact. No one challenged me. Eventually, one of my hellhounds returned. He trotted up to me and stopped, sitting neatly. Something hung from his mouth. A newspaper. I crouched and took it from him. The paper was warm, slightly torn at the edges. I glanced at him. Good job, I said. His tail wagged once. I unfolded the newspaper. The headline jumped out immediately. Overlord territory shifts as power struggles intensify. Below it were names. Faces. Titles. Overlords. I scanned faster. Vox. Valentino. Velvet. Carmilla Carmine. Zestchel. My eyes narrowed slightly. I kept reading. Another article caught my attention. Princess of Hell continues rehabilitation hotel project. I froze. My eyes locked onto the name beneath it. Charlie Morningstar. My grin returned, slower this time. I leaned back against the motel wall, newspaper in hand, tail swaying lazily behind me. The pieces slid together cleanly now. The red sky. The demons. The overlords. The hotel. I exhaled, amused. So that's where I landed. I folded the paper and tucked it under one arm. My hellhounds gathered around me instinctively. I looked toward the distant skyline, toward where I knew the hotel stood. "All right," I said calmly. "This just got interesting." Chapter 2, Screens, Smoke and Teeth. I didn't send him far. I crouched near the edge of the block, one claw resting on the cracked curb, eyes half-lidded as if I were bored. One of my hellhounds stood beside me, alert but still. The other, the one I trusted with speed and awareness, I pointed down the street with 2 fingers. "Go," I said evenly. "Find noise. Power. Someone important. Don't start anything." He dipped his head once and was gone, moving fast but controlled, claws barely touching the ground. I felt the tether stretch as he left my range, not painful, just noticeable. Like keeping track of a drone without a screen. I stayed put. Demons passed by at a distance. Some glanced at me and kept walking faster. Others slowed, gauging. None approached. I leaned back against a wall, arms folded loosely, tail flicking once when someone got too close. I looked relaxed. I was not. Time moved. Minutes. Maybe more. Then the tether snapped tighter. I straightened immediately. My hellhound returned at speed, skidding slightly as he stopped in front of me. His ears were back. His eyes were sharp. He didn't look injured, but there was tension in his shoulders. "You found something," I said, smiling lightly. He turned and started walking, slow enough for me to follow. I gestured once, and my second hellhound fell in on my other side. I pushed off the wall and moved after them, pace casual, posture loose. We cut through side streets. Then alleys. The buildings grew taller. Cleaner. Screens started appearing everywhere, walls, windows, floating panels projecting ads and propaganda. Voices echoed from speakers overhead, polished and loud. Vox territory. I felt it before I saw it. The hum in the air. The buzz under my teeth. Static crawling faintly across my fur. We stopped in front of a building that looked more like a studio tower than anything else. Glass, steel, screens stacked over screens. Guards at the entrance glanced at me and hesitated. I didn't slow down. One lifted a weapon. I stared at him. He lowered it. We walked inside. The lobby was wide, glossy, and packed. Demons moved through it carrying equipment, drinks, data pads. None of them were relaxed. A few recognized me immediately and stiffened. Whispers spread. I caught fragments. Hellhound. Big one. Who let? I kept walking. An elevator waited at the far end. My hellhound stepped forward and hit the panel with his claw. The doors slid open. We stepped inside. As the doors closed, I rolled my shoulders once. "This is going to be loud," I said pleasantly. The elevator climbed fast. When the doors opened again, the sound hit me. Music. Screens talking over each other. Voices layered and arguing. Laughter sharp and practiced. We stepped into a large room. Vox stood near the center, facing a massive screen wall, his monitor head flickering with shifting expressions. Valentino lounged on a couch to the side, wings half spread, cigarette glowing between his fingers. Velvet sat cross-legged on a table, scrolling through something, eyes sharp and annoyed. All three looked up at the same time. The room went quiet. Vox was the first to smile, his screen flashing bright. "Well," he said smoothly, turning fully toward me. "This is new." Valentino leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing with interest rather than concern. "That's a big dog," he said lazily. Did someone forget to put you on a leash? Velvet clicked her tongue and hopped down from the table. Great, she said flatly. Another idiot with muscles. I smiled wider. I took a few steps into the room, slow and deliberate. My hellhounds spread out behind me, one drifting left, the other right. Wow, I said happily, looking around. You guys really went all in on the screens. Very subtle. Very, please pay attention to me. Vox's smile tightened a fraction. You're trespassing, he said calmly. That's not healthy. Relax, I replied lightly. I knocked. Your guards just didn't feel like answering. Valentino laughed quietly, smoke curling around his face. I like him, he said. He's rude. Velvet crossed her arms. Why is it always animals, she muttered. I stopped a few feet from Vox and tilted my head slightly, studying him. So, I said casually, you're Vox. Vox's eyes flickered. And you are? I shrugged. Working on the name. His smile returned, sharper. You picked the wrong building to workshop it. Did I? I asked, genuinely curious. Because this place screams opportunity. Valentino's wings twitched. You planning to pitch us something, mutt? I glanced at him. You talk a lot for someone who hides behind perfume and other people. The temperature in the room shifted. Valentino's smile stayed, but his eyes darkened. Careful, he said softly. I looked back at Vox. I hear you like control, I said easily. Signals. Influence. Watching everything. Vox stepped closer, screen flashing patterns. I like order. Sure, I said. And I like results. I leaned forward slightly. So here's the thing. I'm building something. And you three. I gestured around the room. You're perfect examples. Velvet snorted. Examples of what? What happens, I said pleasantly, when people forget someone else can walk in and take their stuff? Vox laughed, sharp and digital. That's cute. I smirked. You should see what I do when I'm serious. Vox's screen flared. Power surged through the room as screens lit up at once, static screaming. Valentino stood smoothly, wings spreading fully now. Velvet stepped back, eyes calculating. Vox pointed at me. Kill him. Everything exploded into motion. The first blast hit my chest like a truck. I slid back a few feet, claws digging into the floor, fur smoking slightly. I laughed, breath heavy but controlled. That all you've got? I called out. My hellhounds moved instantly. One lunged at Valentino, jaws snapping as Valentino fired back with bursts of energy and sharp commands. The other clashed with Velvet as she drew weapons from nowhere, moving fast and precise. Vox attacked from above, screens dropping, beams firing. I leapt forward, smashing through a console and grabbing Vox by the arm, ripping cables free. He screamed, sound warping through speakers. I slammed him into a wall, cracking it. Demons in the building panicked. Some ran. Others got caught in the crossfire as screens fell and blasts went wild. I didn't slow. I didn't adjust. I grabbed Vox again as he tried to phase away and slammed him into the floor. Rule 1, I said cheerfully, lifting him by the collar. If you're going to broadcast everything, expect interference. Blood splattered across the screens. Behind me, my hellhounds fought viciously, tearing into guards and taking hits in return. Valentino roared orders, furious now. Velvet shouted, dodging and striking, clearly pissed. I felt the strain. The cost of maintaining them. My strength dipped again, just a little. I grinned anyway. This is fun, I said honestly. I threw Vox through another screen and stepped forward as alarms screamed and the building shook. The fight kept going. Chapter 3, Apex takes the signal. Vox stopped screaming when his screen cracked down the center. The sound cut out mid-glitch, speakers popping as static bled into silence. His body twitched once under my grip, then went slack. I didn't let go immediately. I held him there for a second longer, claws tight around his collar, just to be sure. Then I dropped him. He hit the floor hard, sliding a short distance across broken glass and sparking cables. Screens around the room flickered erratically, some shutting off completely, others stuck looping distorted fragments of Vox's face. I straightened slowly and rolled my shoulders. My breathing was heavier now, chest rising and falling with controlled force. Fur along my arms was singed in places. Blood his and others darkened my claws. I felt fine. Behind me, the fight ended almost at the same time. A heavy thump echoed to my left. I turned my head slightly and saw one of my hellhounds step forward, Valentino clenched in his jaws. Valentino was still conscious, wings bent at wrong angles, cigarette crushed between his fingers. His eyes burned with fury as he struggled weakly. Another thump followed from the other side. My second hellhound dropped Velvet at my feet. She hit the floor on her knees, snarling, hair disheveled, one arm twisted behind her back by the hellhound's grip. The room was ruined. Walls torn open. Screens shattered. Bodies scattered. Guards, workers, demons unlucky enough to be close when things went loud. Some groaned. Some didn't move at all. I didn't check. I smiled. Well, I said pleasantly, clapping my hands once. That went about how I expected. Valentino tried to speak. Blood ran from the corner of his mouth. It came out as a strained laugh instead. You think, he rasped, this makes you big. I walked over and crouched in front of him, resting my elbows casually on my knees. No, I replied cheerfully. I think this makes me obvious. I stood again and looked around the room. Cameras. So many cameras. Some broken, some still active. I could feel the signal hum faintly through the floor and walls, Vox's network bleeding but not dead. I nudged Vox's limp body with my foot. Let's use what's left, I said. I grabbed Vox by the back of the head and dragged him toward the center of the room. My hellhounds followed, each still holding their prize. I kicked aside debris and positioned Vox upright, propping him against a console that still glowed faintly. I turned to the cameras and waved. Hey, I said easily. Quick announcement. I reached down, grabbed Valentino by the hair, and hauled him forward. He hissed but didn't fight hard enough to matter. I pushed him down and sat on his back, planting myself comfortably like a chair. Valentino froze, humiliated fury rolling off him. I motioned with 2 fingers. My other hellhound forced Velvet down beside me. I shifted slightly and rested one arm on her shoulder. She glared sideways, jaw tight, breathing sharp. I adjusted my posture, making myself comfortable. Much better, I said. I leaned forward slightly, looking directly into the nearest intact camera. My tail flicked once behind me. All right, I said calmly. Everyone watching, and I know there are a lot of you, listen up. Screens across the room stabilized as the broadcast locked in. Vox's systems were damaged, but not enough to stop a raw feed. I could feel it spreading outward, hijacking whatever channels were still linked. I'm not here to rant, I continued, tone light. I'm not here to explain myself. And I'm definitely not here to apologize. Valentino shifted under me. I pressed down harder with my weight. He growled and went still. These 3, I said, tapping Vox's cracked screen with one claw, then patting Valentino's head, then squeezing Velvet's shoulder just enough to make her hiss, ran things. Controlled screens. Media. Influence. You all knew their names. I smiled wider. You know mine now. I straightened slightly. My name is Apex, I said clearly. I am the overlord of Hellhounds. I paused just long enough for the words to settle. I don't care about territory lines you drew 5 minutes ago. I don't care about your deals. And I don't care if you liked how things were yesterday. I leaned back, relaxed, sitting comfortably on two of the most powerful demons in the room. If you hurt my kind, I continued evenly, I will remove you. If you try to control my kind, I will remove you slower. Valentino laughed weakly under me. You're dead the moment you... I shifted my weight again. His laughter cut off with a sharp sound. I looked back to the camera. If you stay out of my way, we won't have a problem. If you don't, this I gestured around the ruined room is the mild version. I waved once. Announcement over. I reached forward and crushed the remaining active console with my claw. The broadcast cut. The sudden quiet felt heavy. I stood up, stepping off Valentino without ceremony. He collapsed to the floor, coughing. Velvet scrambled back a few inches, eyes locked on me. Vox didn't move at all. I looked at my hellhounds. Good work, I said sincerely. Their tails wagged once each. I turned and walked out. No one stopped me. The trip back through the city felt different. Eyes followed me openly now. Whispers weren't whispered. Demons moved aside without pretending they weren't. Screens flickered overhead, some still glitching from the interrupted broadcast. I ignored all of it. The motel came back into view. Same broken sign. Same cracked windows. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. I exhaled slowly. Only then did I feel it. The cost. My limbs felt heavier. My chest tightened slightly. Not dangerous. Just real. Creating and maintaining my hellhounds pulled from me constantly. I rolled my neck once and shook it off. Worth it, I muttered. I stood in the center of the motel lobby and focused inward again. The pressure responded. Heat surged through me, stronger this time. My vision blurred slightly as I pushed through it. I gritted my teeth, tail lashing once behind me. Two new shapes formed. They hit the floor on all fours, breathing hard at first, then steadying. Smaller than my originals, but solid. Strong. Their eyes lifted to me immediately. Loyal. I staggered half a step and caught myself on the wall. I laughed quietly under my breath. Okay, I said. That one stung. Before I could speak again, I felt another shift. My original hellhounds stepped forward. They stopped a few feet away from me, bodies tense, focused. I felt the tether between us flex differently now. Something had changed. They could do it too. I didn't interrupt. They focused inward the same way I had. The air warped again twice. Two more hellhounds formed, one beside each original. 6. They stood in a loose formation, all eyes on me. The room felt crowded now, heavy with presence. I straightened fully despite the strain and smiled at them. All right, I said evenly. Rules are simple. You're loyal to me. You protect each other. You don't start fights without permission. They listened. I could feel it. I looked around the motel, then toward the city beyond. Pentagram City was still loud. Still violent. Still full of problems. I cracked my neck once. Let's get organized, I said. Chapter 4, Polite Visits in Quiet Lines. About a week passed. Pentagram City didn't calm down. It adjusted. Screens that once carried Vox's face cycled through static or low-effort replacements. Some broadcasts vanished entirely. Others scrambled to rebrand. Rumors moved faster than facts. My name stuck anyway. Apex. Hellhound Overlord. The one who broke the V's and walked out. I didn't correct anything. The motel became quieter. Not empty. Just careful. Demons didn't loiter nearby anymore. My hellhounds rotated patrols naturally, no orders needed. 6 of them now, each distinct in posture and temperament, all loyal without question. The strain stayed constant, manageable. I adjusted. Slept less. Moved efficiently. By the end of the week, I decided it was time. Hazbin Hotel. I knew it well. Layout. People. Problems. The exact stage it was in right now. I didn't rush. I didn't bring the pack. I went alone. The hotel stood out immediately. Bright colors against hell's usual mess. Clean lines that tried a little too hard. The sign flickered optimistically. I walked up the steps and pushed the door open. The bell rang. The lobby looked exactly how it should. Cleaned within an inch of its life, still feeling lived in. A faint smell of cleaning solution lingered under everything else. Nifty was the first one I saw. She was scrubbing the floor aggressively, humming to herself. She froze mid-scrub and looked up at me, eyes wide. "Oh," she said brightly. "You're tall." I smiled politely. "You're thorough." She beamed. "Thank you. I clean a lot." "Like, a lot." She glanced at my claws. "Do you track mud?" "Only when I'm bored," I replied calmly. She nodded seriously and went back to scrubbing. I stepped further inside. Angel Dust lounged across the couch, legs draped over one armrest, twirling a gun lazily in one hand. His eyes flicked up and down me, slow and appraising. "Well damn," he said with a grin. "Did the pet store start selling upgrades?" I tilted my head slightly. "You must be Angel." "In the fur," he replied smugly. "And you are?" "Apex," I said easily. His grin faltered for half a second. Then widened again. "Oh. That Apex? Cute." Husk sat at the bar, bottle in hand. He glanced at me once, unimpressed. "Great," he muttered. "Another overlord with an ego." I looked at him. "Relax. I'm not here to buy the place." "That's what they all say," Husk replied flatly, taking a drink. Alastair's presence made itself known before he spoke. The air shifted slightly. Then his voice cut in, cheerful and smooth. "Well now," he said as he stepped into view, hands clasped behind his back. "This is a delightful surprise." I turned toward him. Alastair smiled wide, eyes sharp, posture relaxed in that way that never actually was. "Alastair," I said politely. His brows lifted. "You know my name." "Hard not to," I replied. "You make impressions." He laughed lightly. "And you've been making waves yourself." I shrugged. The city needed exercise. Vaggie stepped into the room from the back hallway, spear already in hand. She stopped when she saw me, eyes narrowing. "Charlie," she called out sharply. Charlie hurried in a second later, smile ready, then paused when she saw me. "Oh," she said, surprised but still upbeat. "Hi. Welcome to the Hazbin Hotel." I nodded at her. "Nice place." Her smile brightened. "Thank you. We've been working really hard on it." Vaggie stayed tense. "Why are you here?" I met her gaze calmly. "Curiosity." Alastair chuckled. Honesty. How refreshing. Charlie clasped her hands together. Well, anyone curious is welcome. Do you want a tour? I considered it for half a second. Sure. She brightened immediately and started walking. I followed at an easy pace. The others trailed behind or watched us move through the halls. She showed me the common areas, the dining room, the activity spaces. She talked enthusiastically about rehabilitation, about progress, about hope. I listened. I didn't interrupt. Angel leaned close as we walked. So, he whispered, you really set on Valentino? Yes, I replied evenly. He laughed loudly. That's hot. Vaggie shot him a look. Angel. What? He said innocently. Husk snorted into his drink. We stopped near the stairwell. Charlie turned to me, hopeful. So, she said gently, what do you think? I met her eyes. She was sincere. Stubbornly so. I think, I said slowly, you're going to have a rough time. Her smile wavered slightly. Oh. But, I continued, you're not stupid. And you picked your people well. Alastair hummed approvingly. Charlie straightened. That means a lot. Vaggie still didn't relax. You didn't answer why you came. I smiled faintly. To see it myself. And now I have. I turned back toward the lobby. I won't interfere. Charlie looked relieved. Thank you. I paused at the door and glanced back. You'll interfere with yourselves enough. Angel laughed again. I like him. I stepped outside. The air felt heavier after the hotel's forced optimism. The street was quiet. Too quiet. Then I smelled it. Something sweet. Familiar. I turned my head slightly. Rosie stood across the street, parasol resting on her shoulder, smile polite and sharp. Her eyes met mine without fear. Well, she said pleasantly. You certainly know how to make an entrance. I walked toward her calmly. You didn't come to stop me. No, she replied. Just to talk. We stood a few feet apart. Her posture was relaxed. Calculated. I run Cannibal Town, she said cheerfully. You run Hellhounds. Currently, I replied. She smiled wider. I appreciate clarity. So let's be clear. I crossed my arms. Go on. You don't come hunting in my territory, she said calmly. And I don't test how sharp your teeth are. I considered her for a moment. Fair, I said. She nodded once. Good. I like when things stay simple. I turned away. Same. Behind me, she chuckled softly. Do drop by sometime. Maybe, I said over my shoulder. I walked off down the street, already feeling the city shift again around the edges. Chapter 5, Steal Deals and the Devil Waiting. The walk back toward the motel should have been quiet. It wasn't. I noticed them halfway down the block, two figures standing near the edge of my territory, posture composed, movements controlled. They weren't hiding. That alone narrowed the list. Carmilla Carmen's daughters. They looked exactly like they should. Sharp suits, polished boots, weapons visible but not raised. Their expressions were calm, professional, and just guarded enough to suggest they were here on business, not bravado. I slowed my pace slightly. They noticed immediately. One of them stepped forward. Apex, she said evenly. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us. I didn't, I replied casually. But you walked all the way out here, so let's call it efficient. The other daughter smiled faintly. Our mother prefers efficiency. I glanced between them as I kept walking, forcing them to fall into step beside me. That tracks. We moved together through the street. Demons nearby kept their distance. The daughters didn't look around much. They didn't need to. She asked us to deliver a message, the first said. Carmilla Carmine would like to offer you access to angelic weaponry. I looked ahead. For money? Yes. Large amounts? Yes. I smiled slightly. She's honest. I like that. The second daughter spoke this time. She's also aware you don't need them for posturing. Correct. There was a brief pause as we walked. She's offering a private showing, the first added. No third parties. I nodded once. All right. We took a turn that led away from my motel and toward Carmilla's territory. The buildings there were sturdier. Reinforced. Less decorative. Everything screamed function. On the way, I glanced sideways at them. You two always do the talking. We're trusted, one replied simply. That's rare, I said. Don't lose it. They exchanged a glance but said nothing. Carmilla's place was clean, secure, and well lit. She waited inside, standing near a long table laid out with weapons. Her posture was straight. Her expression was neutral, eyes sharp. Apex, she greeted calmly. You move quickly. I don't like delays, I replied. She gestured to the table. Neither do I. These are angelic weapons. Verified. Functional. I stepped closer and examined them. Spears. Blades. Ammunition. Each one radiated a specific kind of danger. I knew exactly what they could do. Who they could hurt. How much? I asked. She named a price. I nodded. I'll take these, I said, selecting several pieces. And these? Her eyebrow lifted slightly. No negotiation. You already priced them correctly, I replied. She smiled faintly. Good. The exchange was quick. Clean. No theatrics. When it was done, I turned to leave. Carmilla spoke once more. You're building something. I glanced back. So are you. She inclined her head. Then we understand each other. I left with the weapons secured and headed back toward the motel. The closer I got, the quieter the street became. That set my teeth on edge. The door to the motel was open. I stepped inside and stopped. All 6 of my hellhounds were on the floor. Pinned. Not injured. Not unconscious. Just, sat on. Lucifer Morningstar lounged comfortably atop them like he was testing furniture. One leg crossed over the other. Hands resting on his knees. His smile was wide, bright, and unapologetically amused. Well, he said cheerfully, looking at me. You took your time. I stared at him for half a second. Then I smiled. Wow, I said pleasantly. I leave for one errand and come back to this. Lucifer laughed lightly and patted the hellhound beneath him. Relax. They're very well behaved. One of my hellhounds growled low. Lucifer pressed down slightly with his foot. The growl stopped. Don't, Lucifer said mildly. I'm inspecting. I stepped fully inside and closed the door behind me. You're sitting on my pack. Yes, he replied easily. They aren't sinners. That caught my attention. I tilted my head. You broke into my motel to do biology. I knocked, he said. Your door exploded. I glanced at the ruined frame. Fair. Lucifer stood finally, stepping off my hellhounds. They scrambled up instantly, moving to my sides, eyes locked on him. I rested a hand on the head of the nearest one, calm but firm. "It's fine," I said. They stayed tense but obeyed. Lucifer clapped his hands together once. "Fascinating creatures," he said brightly. "Hellborn. Loyal. Replicating. That's not standard." I crossed my arms. "Neither is breaking into my place." He grinned. "I'm the king of hell. I visit things that interest me." "And hellhounds interest you?" "Very much," he replied. "Especially ones that answer to someone who isn't me." I met his gaze evenly. "I don't answer to anyone either." Lucifer's smile widened. "Oh, I know." He walked around the room slowly, hands behind his back, eyes scanning my hellhounds. "They aren't sinners. They aren't constructs. They're yours." "Correct." "And you didn't steal them from anyone?" "No." He stopped in front of me. "That makes you unusual." I shrugged. "Happens." Lucifer laughed again, genuinely entertained. "You're fun." One of my hellhounds shifted slightly. Lucifer glanced down at it. "And you're adorable," he added casually. The hellhound stiffened, confused. I smirked. Lucifer looked back at me. "I'm not here to threaten you. Or recruit you. Or lecture." "That's refreshing," I said. "I'm here because my daughter is running a hotel full of sinners who think redemption is possible," he continued lightly, "and meanwhile, a hellhound overlord is restructuring power dynamics without whining about it." I spread my hands. "Efficiency." "Exactly," Lucifer said happily. "I approve." He turned toward the door. "I'll let you get back to whatever it is you do. Try not to break too many things before the next extermination." "I'll do my best," I replied. Lucifer paused at the doorway and glanced back. "Oh, an apex." "Yes. If you ever want to talk hellhound logistics," he said with a grin, "you know where to find me." He stepped out and vanished. The motel felt heavier after he left. My hellhounds looked up at me. I sighed lightly and rubbed my face once. "All right," I said. "Everyone up. We're fine." They relaxed. I looked at the weapons I'd brought back. "Let's reorganize," I said. Chapter 6, Guests and Consequences. The next day started normal. That was the only strange part. Pentagram City was loud like always. Gunshots in the distance. Arguments spilling into the streets. Screens buzzing with half-working ads. Nothing about the city suggested anything had changed, and yet the pressure felt lighter when I stepped outside the motel. 6 hellhounds were already moving. Not pacing. Not restless. Just rotating positions like they always did. 2 on the roof. 2 inside. 2 near me. They didn't need reminders. They didn't need encouragement. I stretched once, rolled my shoulders, and glanced down the street toward the brighter part of the city. "All right," I said evenly. "We're visiting." 2 hellhounds stepped forward immediately. I didn't point. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "You're staying," I told the other 4. "No trouble." Then I turned and started walking. The 2 chosen hellhounds followed at my sides, heads level, posture calm. Demons noticed us. They always did. Some stared too long. Others crossed the street. Nobody tried anything. The Hazbin Hotel came into view, still loud with color, still stubbornly clean. The sign flickered cheerfully like it hadn't learned anything from hell yet. I pushed the door open. The bell rang. Charlie's voice carried through the lobby immediately. She was talking fast, excited, explaining something to Vaggie while waving a clipboard around. She looked up and froze. "Oh," she said brightly. "Hi." "Morning," I replied calmly. Her eyes dropped to the two hellhounds behind me. Her face lit up. "Oh my gosh," she said, hurrying over. Are they new guests?" "Yes," I said simply. Her hands clasped together instantly. "That's wonderful. Welcome. Welcome to the Hazbin Hotel." The hellhounds stopped when I stopped. Sat when I gave a small nod. No growling. No tension. Just stillness. Vaggie stepped closer, spear already in hand, eyes narrowed. She circled them once, slow and careful. "They don't feel like sinners," she said cautiously. I glanced at her. "Most don't at first." Charlie nodded eagerly. "Exactly. Everyone deserves a chance." Angel Dust leaned over the couch, eyes bright and curious. "Wow," he said. "You bringing in pets now?" "They're guests," Charlie said firmly. Angel grinned. "Sure they are." Husk looked up from behind the bar, took one look at me, and sighed. "You brought problems." "I brought visitors," I replied. Charlie was already kneeling in front of the hellhounds, smiling warmly. "Hi. I'm Charlie. I'll be helping you while you're here." The hellhounds didn't speak. Didn't react. Just watched her calmly. She beamed harder. "Oh, they're shy," she said happily. "That's okay." She stood and waved them along. "Come on. I'll show you your rooms." They followed her without hesitation. I watched them disappear down the hallway, then leaned against the wall near the bar. Husk slid a drink toward me without asking. I took it. Nifty zipped past, skidded to a stop, and stared up at me. "You're back." "Yes," I said. She leaned closer, sniffed once, then smiled. "You smell busy." "I was," I replied. She nodded seriously and ran off again. Angel wandered closer, lowering his voice slightly. "So," he said casually, "what's your angle here?" I took a sip. "No angle." He smirked. "Everyone's got one." I looked at him. "You want out?" He blinked. "Out of what?" "Your boss." The smile slipped. Angel laughed, quick and defensive. "Yeah, okay. I can do it," I said calmly. The laughter stopped. Husk frowned. "Don't mess with him." Angel swallowed. "You serious?" "Yes." He stared at me, eyes searching my face. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking." There was a short silence. Angel looked away, then back. "Is it possible?" I didn't answer verbally. I sent the command. One hellhound, not the ones here, moved immediately. Angel felt it. He shifted, uneasy. "What did you just do?" "Delegated," I replied. Charlie's voice echoed from upstairs as she enthusiastically explained hotel rules to the hellhounds. Everything felt normal. Almost too normal. 10 minutes passed. Then the door opened. Not slammed. Opened. Valentino stepped inside. He didn't swagger. Didn't shout. Didn't smile. He looked wrecked. One wing hung wrong. His coat was torn. Blood stained his collar. His breathing was shallow and uneven. His eyes didn't scan the room, they locked onto me immediately. Angel froze. Valentino took 2 steps forward, then stopped. "I'm ending it," Valentino said quickly. The room went silent. Charlie stared. "Ending, what?" Valentino swallowed hard. "The contract." Angel's breath hitched. I'm done, Valentino said, voice tight. He's free. He didn't look at Angel. Didn't threaten. Didn't posture. He turned and walked back toward the door. No one stopped him. The door closed behind him. Angel stood there, shaking. He pressed a hand to his chest. I don't feel it. Husk exhaled slowly. Damn. Charlie rushed over. Angel. Are you okay? Angel laughed, shaky and real. Yet, I think I am. He looked at me, eyes wet but bright. You did that? I shrugged. Took 10 minutes. He stared at his hands like they belonged to someone else. I'm free. Yes, I said. He opened his mouth. I raised a hand. Don't. He stopped. Just live, I added calmly. He nodded, wiping his face. Yet. Okay. Charlie looked between us, overwhelmed. That was I don't even. I turned toward the door. The Hellhounds were still upstairs, following rules, doing exactly what they were told. I paused at the threshold, glanced back once. They're doing fine, I said. Charlie nodded quickly. They really are. I stepped outside. Chapter 7, Quiet Deals and Deferred Chains. I didn't leave right away. The door was still in front of me, sunlight red hell glow leaking through the glass, but my feet didn't move. Inside the Hazbin hotel, the noise had changed. It wasn't panic anymore. It was adjustment. Angel laughed too loud. Charlie talked too fast. Nifty hummed while cleaning the same spot 3 times. Everything was trying to return to normal and failing in small, visible ways. I leaned one shoulder against the wall near the entrance and watched. Angel paced. Not nervously. Restlessly. He kept stopping, clenching his hands, then laughing again like he needed to hear the sound to believe it. Husk stayed behind the bar, wiping a glass that was already clean, ears flicking every time Angel laughed. Nifty zipped past with a rag, skidded, corrected herself, and zipped past again. Then Husk spoke. Hey, he said gruffly. I turned my head slightly. Yet. He didn't look at me at first. He kept wiping the glass. His voice was flat, tired in a way that went past normal grumpiness. You did that for him, he said. Yes, I replied. Angel slowed his pacing and glanced over. Nifty stopped mid-clean and looked between us. Husk finally looked up. His eyes were sharp but worn. You think you can do it again? I studied him for a second. For you? I asked. He didn't dodge it. Yet. Angel blinked. Husk. Husk waved him off. Shut it. I rested my elbows lightly on the bar. Your contract's different. I know, Husk replied immediately. Doesn't mean I don't want out. Nifty tilted her head. What's a contract? Angel glanced at her. Bad thing. Oh, she said brightly. Okay. She went back to cleaning, but she was listening. I considered it. Not theatrically. Not slowly. Just honestly. Alastair. I knew the shape of that leash. I knew how it was held. I knew why Husk hadn't tried anything before. And I knew exactly where Alastair stood right now in the city. I can talk to him, I said. Husk snorted quietly. That's not the same thing. No, I agreed. But it's a start. Angel leaned on the bar. You're really just doing this stuff, hey? I smiled faintly. It's a slow week. Husk stared at me for a long moment, then nodded once. All right, he said. If you're gonna do it, do it. Charlie looked up from across the room. Do what? Nothing you need to worry about, I replied calmly. She hesitated, then smiled anyway. Okay. I pushed off the bar. I'll be back. Angel watched me go. Hey, he said suddenly. I paused. Seriously, Angel said, voice steadier now. Thanks. I didn't turn around. Already told you not to. I stepped outside. Alastair wasn't hard to find. He never was. The city bent around his presence without realizing it was doing so. Radios buzzed faintly as I walked. Old music slipped through broken speakers. Laughter echoed from nowhere specific. I followed the sound. He stood near an intersection, hands clasped behind his back, posture relaxed. His smile was already in place when I approached, eyes bright with interest rather than surprise. Well, Alastair said cheerfully. If it isn't hell's newest headache. I stopped a few feet away. You're popular too. He chuckled. I do try. We stood there, traffic flowing around us in a wide, unconscious arc. You wanted something, he said lightly. Yes, I replied. He tilted his head. Straight to business. How refreshing. I crossed my arms. Husk. Alastair's smile didn't change, but his eyes sharpened slightly. Ah. I want him out. Alastair hummed softly. That's ambitious. Not really, I replied. He laughed, delighted. Oh, I do like you. We walked together without planning it, turning down a quieter street. His steps were unhurried. Mine matched without effort. You understand, Alastair said pleasantly, that our arrangement is quite old. I know. And mutually beneficial. For you, I said. He smiled wider. Indeed. I stopped walking. He did too. I'm not asking you to do it now, I said. I'm asking what it would take. Alastair tapped his chin thoughtfully. Power, he said immediately. Influence. Certainty. I nodded. Figures. He leaned closer slightly, voice still light. When you are the strongest thing in hell, he said, you may ask me again. I met his eyes. And then? Then, he replied cheerfully, we'll see. I smiled. Yet. He blinked. Yes. Yes, I repeated. That works. Alastair laughed, genuinely entertained. You are delightful. People say that, I replied. He gave a small bow. I'll be watching. I'm counting on it. We parted without ceremony. The walk back felt longer, but not heavier. When I pushed the hotel door open again, the bell rang. Everyone looked up. Angel's eyes searched my face immediately. Husk didn't move at all. I walked back to the bar and leaned against it. Well? Husk asked. He said no, I replied. Angel winced. Husk's shoulders sagged slightly. For now, I added. Husk looked up sharply. I met his gaze evenly. He said when I'm the strongest in hell. Angel snorted. That's a hell of a win. I smiled. Yet. Husk shook his head slowly, ears drooping. Figures. Don't, I said. He glanced at me. Don't what? Lose hope, I replied calmly. I'll get there. Angel stared. You say that like it's already scheduled. I shrugged. I'm efficient. Husk studied me for a long moment, then looked away. You're insane. Accurate. Nifty popped up between us. Are we winning? Yes, I said. She clapped happily. Yay! Husk exhaled slowly and set the glass down. All right, he muttered. I'll wait. I nodded once. Good. I glanced toward the stairs where the two hellhounds were staying, still quiet, still following rules. Things move fast, I said lightly. Try not to blink. Chapter 8, Training Rooms and Territory Lines. I didn't take the two hellhounds back. Not yet. Charlie had them upstairs, and I could hear her through the ceiling even from the lobby. Her voice stayed bright in that way that made you wonder if she ever got tired. The hellhounds followed her like they were on rails. Calm. Silent. Obedient. They weren't trying to act like sinners. They were just doing what they were told. I watched Husk for a second as he went back to wiping glasses. He glanced at me. You're still here. I said I'd be back, I replied calmly. He snorted. Yeah, and now you're lingering. Angel leaned on the bar with his usual loose posture, but his eyes kept darting toward the door like he expected Valentino to crash through it again. He didn't say anything about it. He just stayed close to the bar, fingers tapping lightly on the wood. Nifty popped up at my side, holding a rag. Do you want a snack? I looked at her. Do you have snacks? She smiled brightly. Sometimes. I'll survive, I said. She nodded seriously, then ran off again. Charlie came down the stairs with the two hellhounds following. She looked pleased, cheeks slightly flushed like she'd been speed-talking for 10 minutes straight. They're doing really well, she said happily. They're so polite. Vaggie walked behind her, arms folded, eyes still narrowed. They're quiet. Too quiet. Charlie waved a hand. Not everyone expresses themselves the same way. I glanced at the hellhounds. One sat. The other stood. Both watched me first, then Charlie. They weren't confused. They were just tracking. Charlie leaned toward me, lowering her voice slightly. Do you think they'll open up more with time? Yes, I said evenly. Vaggie's eyes flicked to my face. How do you know? I smiled faintly. Because you're not going to stop trying. Charlie brightened immediately. Exactly. I won't. Angel made a soft noise. God, you're adorable. Charlie ignored him without even looking. I crouched slightly in front of the hellhounds. My hand rested briefly on each of their heads. A simple check. A quiet reminder. Stay, I told them calmly. Listen to Charlie. Don't start trouble. They understood instantly. No movement besides a small ear flick on the one standing. Charlie clasped her hands. You can visit them anytime. I know, I replied. Husk took a drink from his bottle and muttered, this place is turning into a kennel. Angel grinned. I'd live in a kennel if it had cocktails. Husk glared at him. Shut up. Angel laughed lightly. Charlie turned back to me. So are you leaving again? Yes, I said. Vaggie didn't move aside. Where are you going? I looked at her calmly. To do what overlords do. Charlie hesitated. Are you going to hurt people? I'm going to move things, I replied. If someone gets hurt, it'll be because they made it necessary. Vaggie's grip tightened on her spear. That's not comforting. I shrugged slightly. It's honest. Charlie stepped forward quickly, smiling again like she was smoothing a wrinkle in the air. Well, if you ever want to talk about it, we're here. And your guests are here too. I nodded once. Keep them busy. I will, she said eagerly. I turned to Husk. Don't drink yourself into the floor. He stared at me. Don't tell me what to do. I smiled. Fair. Angel leaned closer. So what now, big boss? Now, I said calmly, I speed things up. I walked out. The city felt different once the hotel door closed behind me. Less clean. More honest. Streets full of demons doing whatever they wanted, whatever they could get away with. Screens flickered overhead, some still glitching. Vox's influence wasn't gone. It was just fractured, and fractured things were easier to steal. I headed back toward the motel, keeping my pace steady. When I reached my block, the familiar quiet returned. Not silence, just controlled space. Demons didn't stand around here. They moved through quickly or not at all. My 4 hellhounds at home were already watching the street. One on the roof shifted slightly as I approached. 2 inside moved toward the door. The last stayed back, holding position like an anchor. I stepped into the motel and closed the door behind me. All right, I said evenly. Everyone in. They gathered in the lobby, sitting in a loose half-circle without being told. They looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. That loyalty felt clean. Useful. It also pulled on me like a constant weight. I rolled my neck once and exhaled. I'm going to make more, I said. None of them reacted beyond attentive stillness. I focused inward. That pressure was familiar now. Not pleasant, not painful, just demanding. I pushed into it anyway, letting heat build through my chest and arms. My claws flexed unconsciously. The room warped slightly. The first new hellhound formed and hit the floor on all fours. It shook once, then steadied and looked up at me immediately. The second followed a moment later. The moment they became real, the cost landed. My shoulders dipped slightly. My breath thickened. My heartbeat felt louder in my ears. I kept my posture straight anyway, letting the strain settle instead of fighting it. Okay, I muttered, voice still steady. Still fine. One of my originals stepped forward and looked at the new 2, then back at me. I felt the question in the tether. Not words. Intention. Yes, I told him. You can make more too, but not yet. Not until I say so. He sat back down immediately. I looked at the newest 2. You're mine, I said calmly. You listen. You follow. You don't act without orders unless it's defense. They understood. That made 8 hellhounds now, not counting me, with 2 still at the hotel. 10 total under my pull. I shook out my hands once, then walked to the corner of the lobby where I'd cleared space for supplies. The angelic weapons I'd bought from Carmilla sat wrapped and secured. I checked the straps without rushing, then stood back up. Formation, I said. They moved instantly. Not rigid, not perfect, but fast. I pointed at 2. You 2 stay here. Motel security. Nothing gets in unless I allow it. I pointed at 2 more. Street rotation. Quiet. Watch for anyone tracking patterns. Then I pointed at the rest. You're with me. They stood, ears forward. I left the motel with 6 hellhounds at my back. I didn't try to hide them. If I was consolidating power, I wanted people to see it. The first territory I approached belonged to a minor overlord who'd survived mostly by staying useful. Not particularly strong. Just connected. The kind of demon that sold information, arranged introductions, moved products, and acted like that made them untouchable. Their building was a squat office block with heavy guards and a neon sign that tried to look expensive. I walked straight to the entrance. 2 armed demons stepped in front of me. One had a blade. One had a gun. Turn around, the one with the gun said. I glanced at his gun. No. He frowned. You're in. One of my hellhounds stepped forward and bared its teeth. The guard swallowed. His gun lowered a fraction. I smiled politely. Good decision. The doors opened from inside before I even touched them. A demon with slick hair and too much jewelry stepped out, smiling hard. Apex, he said quickly. Welcome. What can I do for you? Talk, I replied. He nodded fast. Of course. Inside. I entered his office without taking my eyes off him. My hellhounds spread through the room in quiet positions, blocking exits without making a show of it. The overlord sat behind his desk, hands clasped tightly. So, he said, attempting calm, what brings you here? I'm taking your route, I replied casually. His smile twitched. My route? Yes, I said. Your street-level movement. The deliveries. The cut-through alleys. The way your people move weapons and bodies and information across 3 blocks without being stopped. He swallowed. That's a lot of assumptions. I leaned forward slightly. Don't insult me. He went still. I continued, voice calm. You can keep your building. You can keep your business. You just do it with my permission now. He stared at me, then forced a laugh that didn't land. And if I say no? I glanced at one of my hellhounds. It stepped forward and placed one claw on the desk. The wood cracked under the pressure. The demon's laugh died. Right, he said quietly. Right. Okay. I smiled. Good. He swallowed again. What do you want in return? I straightened. 50% of your take. And I want names. Anyone planning to push into my area? Anyone talking about the V's? Anyone trying to make a move during the next extermination cycle? He nodded rapidly. Yes. Yes. Done. And, I added, if you sell my information to someone else, I'll know. He nodded again, faster. Understood. I turned and walked out. The next stop was more direct. A small gang had been hitting edges of my block, not brave enough to raid the motel, but bold enough to snatch demons who wandered too close. They weren't an overlord. Just parasites. I found them in a parking structure, clustered around a stolen van. 4 of them, armed and sloppy. One saw me and grinned, thinking he'd spotted an easy mark. Then my hellhounds moved. They didn't explode into chaos. They flowed, fast and clean. One took the gun hand. Another took the leg. The rest cut off escape. The gang didn't get a real fight. They got controlled violence. I watched, expression neutral. When it was over, I walked closer and crouched in front of the one still conscious. He was breathing hard, eyes wide with pain. You were told to stay away, I said calmly. He tried to speak. It came out as a wet sound. I stood. Leave, I told my hellhounds. They released him and stepped back. He crawled away, dragging himself through oil stains and dirt. I didn't care if he lived. I cared that he'd be seen leaving like that. We moved on. By midday, I had 3 minor groups paying me, 1 delivery route under my control, and a set of eyes inside a gambling den where information changed hands faster than bullets. It wasn't glamorous. It was effective. The strain from the hellhounds stayed constant. It pulled at the edges of my strength, made my limbs feel heavier, my breath slightly thicker. I kept my posture loose anyway, like none of it mattered. I didn't like looking tired. I returned to the motel late afternoon. The 2 hellhounds on roof watch shifted as I approached, then relaxed when they recognized me. I stepped inside and let the doors shut. The quiet felt good. I sat on a broken couch and rubbed one hand over my face once. "All right," I said softly. "Report." One hellhound stepped forward and nudged a small object onto the floor. "A chip COMM device." Another pushed forward a folded flyer advertising some new Vox replacement channel. Another simply stared at me, waiting. I nodded, absorbing it. Then I looked at the corner of the room where I'd been creating them. "More," I said. The hellhounds didn't react. I focused inward again. The pressure responded immediately, like it had been waiting. Heat surged, sharp this time. I gritted my teeth lightly and pushed through. 2 more hellhounds formed. The moment they landed, my knees threatened to bend. I forced myself upright. My breath came heavier for a few seconds. I let it pass without making a big deal out of it. "Still worth it," I muttered. 10 hellhounds under me now, with 2 still staying at the hotel. I looked at my originals. "Now," I said, voice calm, "you two. Make 1 each." They stepped forward without hesitation and focused inward. I felt the tether flex, shared strain shifting slightly as they pushed their own energy into creation. 2 more hellhounds formed. That made 12 under my control in total, not counting me, with 2 stationed at Hazbin. My strength dipped again. Not catastrophic. Just noticeable. I stood still for a moment, letting my body adjust. My tail flicked once, annoyed more than anything. "Okay," I said, steady. "We're done for today." They settled, some sitting, some standing, all watching me. I picked up one of the angelic blades and turned it in my hand slowly, checking weight and edge. "Tomorrow," I said evenly, "we organize patrols in layers. And we start collecting more than money." I glanced toward the door, thinking briefly of Charlie's bright face, of the 2 hellhounds upstairs playing the role of guests, of Husk watching me like he didn't want to believe. I set the blade down. "Let's keep moving," I said. Chapter 9, Leashes, Ledgers, and New Borders. By the time the next few days rolled over, the city stopped treating me like a rumor. It treated me like a schedule. Doors opened faster. Conversations ended sooner. People who used to pretend they didn't see anything suddenly remembered they had somewhere else to be. I didn't chase them. I didn't need to. The point wasn't fear. The point was predictability. I sat on the motel's front steps with my elbows on my knees and watched my territory breathe. 12 hellhounds moved through shifts now. 2 still stayed at the Hazbin Hotel as guests, playing their part without slipping. 10 stayed with me. I'd learned how to distribute strain better, who I could send far, who I kept close, how long I could push before my muscles got heavy and my breathing changed. I didn't like being visibly taxed. So I worked smarter. One hellhound came up the sidewalk and stopped in front of me, head low, ears forward. He dropped a bundle on the ground. A bag. Heavy. Coin. Stolen cash. Tokens. Whatever counted this week. I reached down, lifted it with one hand, and tossed it inside the motel. "Good," I said. He sat. Another hellhound came next, a different posture, more impatient. He didn't drop money. He dropped a torn strip of fabric with a symbol printed on it. A gang marker. A minor overlord's people. I stared at it for a second, then exhaled through my nose. "All right," I said evenly. "That one's today." I stood up. My spine popped once. I rolled my shoulders and looked at the pack gathering in the lobby behind me. "You 4, I said, pointing. "With me." 4 hellhounds stepped forward instantly. "And you," I added, pointing at a 5th. "You're handling the meeting." The 5th hellhound raised his head slightly, attentive. He was one of the originals. Reliable. A little more aggressive than the rest. He didn't need coaxing. I smiled faintly. You know what to do. He did. I walked out into the street, moving at an easy pace, hands in my pockets. The 4 hellhounds followed in a loose formation that looked casual until you watched the angles. They controlled space naturally. We didn't head straight toward the target. We took a wide loop first, passing through a few blocks that now counted as mine. Stores that paid me didn't get hit by random raiders anymore. Dealers who worked under my protection didn't get taken by stronger crews. The violence didn't stop. It just stopped touching what I decided mattered. A demon leaning in a doorway saw me and dipped his head quickly. I nodded once back. A group of smaller sinners stepped aside, pressing themselves against a wall to let my pack pass. Their eyes tracked claws, teeth, muscle. None of them were innocent. I didn't care either way. I cared that they learned to move. We reached the edge of the next block. The air changed. Less controlled. More tension. This was someone else's territory, and they were trying very hard to pretend it still belonged to them. A sign above a building flashed, Kraken's Cash Out. Gambling Den. Loan Shark Office. Information Market. All the boring essentials. 2 guards stood at the door with weapons visible. I kept walking. One guard lifted his chin. Turn around. I glanced at his weapon. No. He raised it a fraction. One of my hellhounds stepped forward and stared at him. The guard's throat bobbed. His hand lowered. The other guard swallowed and stepped aside. Good, I said calmly, and walked in. Inside, the place was louder than outside, which was the whole point. People gambled. People argued. People smiled in ways that meant they were lying. A few screens on the wall played whatever replacement channel had filled the vacuum left by Vox's damaged reach. A demon behind the counter saw me and stiffened, then moved quickly toward a back door. I didn't stop him. He was doing what I wanted, alerting the one in charge. I walked through the den like I owned it, because I did, in the way that mattered. My hellhounds stayed close, not crowding people, just making a path. A private door opened. A demon stepped out. Tall, slick, with too many rings and a smile that didn't look real. Apex, he said warmly. This is unexpected. I looked him up and down. Not really. He gave a small laugh that sounded forced. What can I do for you? You can stop pretending you don't know why I'm here, I replied. His smile twitched. He gestured. Let's talk somewhere quieter. He led me into a back room with a table, 2 chairs, and a safe that looked expensive. He sat first, as if that mattered. I didn't sit. I leaned against the wall instead, arms crossed. He glanced at my hellhounds. Do they have to be in here? Yes, I said. He nodded. All right. He tried to reset his expression into something confident. So, he began, I've heard a lot of things. I'm sure you have, I replied. He spread his hands. And I'm willing to be reasonable. Good, I said. Then this is fast. His eyes narrowed slightly. Fast. You work under me now, I said evenly. You keep running your den. You keep your people. You keep your profits, minus my cut. His smile returned, smaller. And what's your cut? Half, I said. The demon's face tightened. Half is. One hellhound took a step forward. Just one step. The demon stopped talking. I tilted my head. Half is cheaper than losing the building. His jaw worked. He tried again, softer. You're expanding very quickly. Yes, I said. That draws attention. Yes, I repeated. He stared at me. You don't care. I smiled faintly. I care a lot. That's why I'm doing it myself instead of letting someone else decide how it goes. He looked down at the table. He tapped 2 fingers once, then stopped. Fine, he said quietly. Half. Good, I replied. He exhaled. And in return. Protection, I said. Stability. And you'll give me names. His eyes flicked up. Names of who? Other minor overlords pretending they're safe, I replied. And any bigger ones sniffing around my block. He hesitated. One of my hellhounds shifted, claws scraping the floor once. The sound was small, but it carried. The demon swallowed. All right, he said quickly. I can do that. I nodded. Good. He cleared his throat. There's one. I waited. He spoke carefully, choosing words like he was handling something sharp. A mid-level overlord. Calls himself Brine. I blinked once. That's a terrible name. He looked relieved I wasn't angry. He's been collecting muscle. Talking about taking your motel block to make a point. I smiled wider. That's even better. The demon watched me. You're not worried? No, I said. He's going to make my day easier. I pushed off the wall and headed for the door. The demon spoke quickly behind me. If you hit him, it'll get messy. I looked back over my shoulder. It's hell. Then I left. Outside, I took a slower route, letting my mind work. Brine. Mid-level. Enough power to call himself an overlord and have people believe it. Not in the league of the real threats, but strong enough to hurt a lot of demons if left alone. Also, the kind of overlord other people rallied behind because it felt safer than standing alone. I didn't need him dead. I needed him handled. That's what the 5th Hellhound was for. I stopped in an alley, just out of the main street flow. I closed my eyes for a second and reached through the tether. A simple mental command, clean and direct. Go. Find Brine. End it. Don't kill him unless he forces it. Make it obvious. The Hellhound I'd chosen earlier moved instantly. I felt him leave, felt the link stretch, felt his focus narrow like a blade. I opened my eyes and looked at the 4 Hellhounds with me. Different job, I said. We're shopping. They tilted ears forward. I headed toward another block where 2 smaller operations overlapped. One ran weapons, one ran favors. Not overlords. Just ambitious. I walked into their shared storefront without knocking. A demon behind the counter looked up and immediately paled. Who's in charge? I asked casually. He pointed without speaking. A door opened, and a demon with a scarred face stepped out, trying to look tough. You lost. No, I said. I'm expanding. He scoffed. This isn't your turf. I smiled like I was amused. It is now. He reached for his weapon. My nearest hellhound moved. Quick. A blur of fur and muscle. The demon hit the wall, weapon clattering to the floor. I didn't react beyond a small exhale. Let's skip that part next time, I said, sounding mildly bored. The demon groaned, holding his ribs. What do you want? 10%, I replied. And you stop selling to anyone targeting my area. He coughed. 10. I leaned forward slightly. You want to negotiate, or do you want to breathe comfortably? He stared at me, then nodded. 10. Fine. Great, I said. I turned and walked out again. That was how it went for the next several hours. Not dramatic. Not theatrical. Just methodical. Some gave in the moment they saw the pack. Some needed a reminder. Nobody got special treatment. Nobody got speeches. I didn't need to be inspirational. I needed to be consistent. By late afternoon, my territory had grown again, not in a clean shape, but in a functional one. Routes. Businesses. Side streets. Places that mattered for control. Back at the motel, I stopped in the doorway and listened. Quiet. Controlled. My hellhounds inside shifted as they sensed me. The two on the roof repositioned. I stepped in and closed the door. Report, I said evenly. One hellhound nudged forward a small stack of tokens. Another dropped a piece of jewelry. Another simply looked at me, waiting for permission to speak through action. Before any of them could move again, I felt the tether snap with a returning presence. The fifth hellhound came back. Fast. He entered the motel, fur dusted with debris, eyes bright, posture energized. He wasn't injured. He was satisfied. I smiled. Done. He dipped his head once. I leaned slightly. How obvious. He made a short sound and moved toward the center of the lobby, then sat and waited, like he was recreating the scene. That told me enough. Good, I said. Then the motel's front door creaked open again, and a demon stumbled in. Brian. He looked worse than I expected. Not dead. Not broken beyond function. But clearly beaten. One eye swollen. Clothing torn. Blood on his lips. He limped in like he didn't want to be here but had no better option. My hellhounds all turned their heads toward him at the same time. Brian froze. He swallowed hard and looked at me. His voice came out rough. Apex. I smiled pleasantly. Brian. You look like you fell down the stairs. He flinched at the tone, not the words. I didn't come to fight, he said quickly. I know, I replied. He swallowed again. I'm calling it off. I took my hands out of my pockets. Calling what off? He glanced at the hellhound that had handled him, then back at me. Anything against your territory. I'm done. Smart, I said. Brian's jaw tightened. I don't want a war. I nodded. Neither do I. He blinked, surprised. I continued calmly, wars waste resources. I prefer acquisitions. His eyes narrowed slightly. So what, you want my territory too? I shrugged. Eventually. Maybe. Depends how you act. He looked like he wanted to argue, then didn't. What do you want right now? I stepped closer, stopping at a comfortable distance, still looming. I want you to stay in your lane, I said. I want you to stop recruiting against me. And I want you to pay a toll if you move product through my routes. Brian stared. A toll? Yes, I replied, smiling faintly. You're welcome. He exhaled sharply through his nose. Fine. Good, I said. Brian hesitated, then added, quieter, your hellhound is strong. I glanced at the hellhound in question. He's trained. Brian's voice dropped more. Strong enough to handle an overlord. Average ones, I corrected casually. Brian's shoulders sagged. Yet. I gestured toward the door. Go. He didn't need a second instruction. He limped out and vanished into the street. I turned back to the lobby and rolled my shoulders once. The strain of maintaining this many hellhounds was there, like an extra weight strapped to my spine, but it wasn't stopping me. It just meant I had to pace my creation. I looked at the pack. How many now? I asked aloud, mostly for my own tracking. They didn't answer in words, of course. I counted them with my eyes. 12 under direct control, 2 still at Hazbin. 14. I exhaled slowly. We can go higher, I said. 2 hellhounds tilted their heads, attentive. I walked to the cleared space in the lobby where I usually created them. I stood still, feet planted, and focused inward. The pressure rose immediately. Heat crawled through my chest and arms. My claws flexed. I kept my face relaxed. One new hellhound formed. Then another. The moment they hit the floor, my breath thickened. My shoulders dipped slightly. I kept my posture straight anyway, and forced my breathing back to normal. Okay, I said evenly. That's 2. Both new hellhounds looked up at me, loyal, still, waiting. I nodded once. Welcome. I turned to 2 of my originals. You too, I said calmly. 1 each. They stepped forward without hesitation and focused inward. I felt their strain shift through the tether. It didn't remove mine, but it distributed the load. 2 more hellhounds formed. That made 18 total under the network, with 2 still stationed at Hazbin, 20 under my influence if I counted the hotel guests separately, and 21 if I counted myself. My muscles felt heavier now. Not shaky. Not weak. Just heavier, like moving through thicker air. I didn't show it beyond a slight roll of my neck. I looked at them all. Listen, I said calmly. We're expanding again tomorrow. No random killing. No showing off. We win by being organized. They watched me with steady focus. I continued, if an average overlord tries to posture, one of you handles it. If someone bigger shows up, you don't improvise. You pull back and you call me. A few tails flicked once in understanding. I stepped back and sat on the edge of a broken chair, resting my elbows on my knees. Good work today, I said, voice lighter. A couple of them visibly relaxed. One moved closer and rested its head near my knee. I looked down at it and smirked faintly. Yeah. I know. I'm charming. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, my territory stayed quiet. I thought briefly about Husk's contract. About Alastair's smile. About the pace I'd need to keep if I wanted to make soon mean something. I stood up again, slow enough to hide the weight in my limbs. Tomorrow, I said evenly, we start collecting allegiance, not just money. The pack stayed ready. Chapter 10, Tribute Meetings and Broken Crowns. Morning came like it always did here. Not gentle. Not quiet. Just the city continuing because it had nothing else to do. I woke up on the motel couch with my boots still on, one arm draped over my eyes. My body felt the weight of the network the moment I took a full breath. 18 hellhounds under my pull now, plus the 2 guests still staying at the hotel. 20 total. The strain wasn't pain. It was pressure. Like carrying a heavy bag you refused to put down because you liked what was inside. I sat up and rolled my shoulders once. A hellhound was already watching me from the lobby doorway. He didn't blink. He didn't shift. He just waited. Yeah, I muttered, voice rough from sleep. I'm up. I stood, stretched my neck, then walked to the front door and pulled it open. The street was quiet in the way it got quiet when people were scared to be the first idiot outside. A few demons moved fast along the edges of buildings, keeping their heads down. Farther out, the usual noise was building. Somewhere, a gun fired. Somewhere else, someone laughed like it meant something. Behind me, claws clicked softly as the pack gathered. I turned and looked at them. Their eyes were steady. Some sat. Some stood. 2 were already positioned as if they expected to move. They didn't need pep talks. They needed assignments. Today, I said evenly, we do 2 things. A few ears angled forward. We recruit, I continued. And we make examples. No reaction. Just attention. I pointed to 4. You're my escort. They stepped forward immediately. Then I pointed to 8 more, splitting them with my hand. You go in pairs. Each pair gets a target. They didn't move yet. They waited for the targets. I walked back to the table I'd set up near the front desk. Scrap wood, a map pinned down with knives, notes written in fast, practical strokes. Names. Locations. Patterns. Who paid? Who lied? Who was likely to lie again? I tapped 3 names with a claw. Knucklebone, I said. Sable. Marrow. The Hellhounds didn't know those names, but they felt my intention through the tether. I pointed at 1 pair. Knucklebone runs a club 2 blocks east. He likes to collect protection from smaller demons and pretend that makes him important. You're going to walk in, remove him, and take the building. The pair's tails flicked once. I pointed at a second pair. Sable runs a smuggling line through the sewer access. She's slippery. Don't chase her. Destroy her crew until she comes back, then break her. The pair leaned forward slightly, eager. I pointed at the third pair. Marrow deals in weapons. He's armed. He's proud of that. Make him regret it. The pair let out low, quiet sounds. Not loud. Just ready. I pointed at the last 2 pairs. You're backup for whichever one meets resistance. Stay close enough to hear trouble. They understood. I turned to the remaining Hellhounds. The rest hold territory. No surprises. No one steps into my block and walks out without permission. They split automatically, some heading toward exits, some toward roof access, some staying inside. I grabbed a jacket from the back of a chair, shrugged it on, and stepped out with my 4 escorts. We were heading to a meeting. Not at my motel. Not at anyone else's home turf. Neutral ground. A burned-out restaurant with intact walls and a wide-open seating area. Somewhere public enough that no one would try anything too flashy, but empty enough that there wouldn't be witnesses who mattered. I liked control. I liked choices. I liked forcing people to pick one. As we walked, I felt the pairs moving away in different directions. The tether stretched, each line steady and responsive. I could sense their speed, their focus. That part felt clean. The city noticed us. It always did. A demon on a balcony spat over the railing and ducked back inside. A group of street-level thugs saw my pack and turned down a side alley without talking. One idiot stared too long, then flinched when my eyes met his. He hurried away. My expression stayed relaxed. My shoulders stayed loose. It wasn't bravado. It was comfort. I knew what I had behind me. We reached the burned-out restaurant. Inside, folding chairs had been arranged in a rough circle. Not for comfort. For positioning. 3 minor overlords were already there, each with 1 or 2 guards. They kept their guards close. I kept mine closer. Knives of tension hung in the air, even though no one raised weapons. The first overlord, a demon with a long snout and gold teeth, stood when I entered. Apex, he said carefully, trying for confidence and failing. The second, shorter, with too many rings and a twitchy eye, stayed seated. The third, a woman with sharp cheekbones and a coat lined with bones, leaned back with arms crossed and watched me like she was trying to memorize how I moved. I didn't sit yet. I walked to the center of the circle and looked at them like I was counting inventory. You came, I said. Gold Teeth nodded. You said you wanted to talk. I did, I replied. The twitchy one forced a smile. We're busy people. You're lucky we. One of my hellhounds stepped forward one step. The smile disappeared. Right, the twitchy one said quietly. I finally pulled out a chair and sat, legs spread comfortably, elbows resting on my thighs. My 4 hellhounds positioned themselves behind me, not blocking my view, just making it clear that anything coming toward me would have to get through them first. Here's the offer, I said evenly. You work under my banner. You keep your operations. You pay tribute. You follow rules. In exchange, you don't get eaten by the next idiot who thinks you look easy. Gold Teeth swallowed. And if we don't accept? I smiled faintly. Then you're declining protection in a city where the V's just got embarrassed and everyone's desperate for a new ladder. The bone-coated woman raised an eyebrow. You're talking about stability. I'm talking about convenience, I replied. Stability happens if you're not stupid. The twitchy one leaned forward a little. What are the rules? Simple, I said. No attacking my roots. No messing with my hellhounds. No selling information about my territory to anyone outside the arrangement. And if I call a meeting, you show up. Gold Teeth nodded quickly. That's manageable. The bone-coated woman stared. Tribute. Fixed percentage, I replied. 10% if you're clean. 20 if you've been a problem. The twitchy one bristled. 20 is. I turned my head slightly to look at him. You've been scheming off other people's shipments for months. He froze. Gold Teeth glanced at him in surprise. The bone-coated woman's lips twitched slightly, amused. The twitchy one cleared his throat. That's business. That's you being greedy, I said calmly. Now it's you being greedy under me. He swallowed hard. 10, he tried again. I smiled like I was humoring a child. 20. He slumped back, jaw tight. Fine. Gold Teeth spoke quickly. We agree. We'll pay tribute. We'll follow rules. The bone-coated woman didn't answer immediately. She studied me, eyes sharp. You want allegiance, she said. I want function, I replied. Allegiance is a side effect. She tilted her head. And what do you want us to do besides pay? I nodded slightly, appreciating the question. Information, I said. And presence. If someone starts gathering muscle, I want to know before they're at my door. Gold Teeth nodded. We can do that. The bone-coated woman leaned forward. And if a major overlord comes for us? I smiled faintly. Then you tell them you're under Apex. If they don't care, you tell me. The twitchy one scoffed quietly. And what, you fight them? I stared at him. He shut up. I don't need to fight everyone personally, I said evenly. That's inefficient. Gold Teeth nodded rapidly as if he liked that answer. Understood. The bone-coated woman's gaze drifted to my hellhounds, then back to me. You're building an army. Yes, I replied. And you're not worried about the cost. I shrugged. I'm managing it. Gold Teeth hesitated. There's something else. I looked at him. Say it. He rubbed the back of his neck. Some people think what you did to Valentino means you're making enemies that don't play small. I know, I replied. The twitchy one muttered, like a laster. The restaurant went quieter. Gold Teeth shot him a look. The bone-coated woman didn't react much, but her eyes sharpened. I smiled faintly. Alastair plays exactly how he wants, I said. That's not new. Gold Teeth cleared his throat. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with reality, I replied. Now, agreement or not? Gold Teeth lifted both hands quickly. Agreement. The twitchy one nodded stiffly. Agreement. The bone-coated woman paused another second, then nodded once. Agreement. Good, I said. Stand. They stood, one by one. I stayed seated. I didn't need to play polite. Your tribute starts tomorrow, I said. You'll get a runner with instructions. You follow them. Gold Teeth nodded. Yes. The twitchy one asked quietly, what happens if we're hit by someone before tomorrow? I smiled. Then you call it an early test of your loyalty. You either handle it, or you call me, and I handle it. The bone-coated woman looked mildly skeptical. You'll actually show up? I leaned back slightly. If you're useful, yes. Gold Teeth nodded like that was the only answer he needed. I stood finally, stretching once. Meeting over. As I walked out, Gold Teeth hurried after me a step. Apex, he said quickly, what should we call your group? I glanced back at him. Call it what you want, I replied. Just pay on time. He nodded rapidly. Outside, the city noise hit again. I walked a few blocks with my escorts, letting the meeting settle into the rumor mill. People would hear. People would adjust. Some would obey. Some would test it. Testing was fine. I felt the tether twitch. One of the pairs had engaged. I didn't change my pace. I just listened through the link, not with words, but with sensation, movement, impact, resistance. The Hellhounds weren't struggling. They were working. Another tether snapped with activity. Then another. I smiled faintly. Busy day, I muttered. One of my escorts glanced up at me, ears twitching as if he'd heard the tone. Yeah, I said lightly. Keep walking. We reached a high point on a broken parking deck where I could see a few blocks in different directions. Not everything, but enough. I leaned on the railing and let my senses track the network. The first pair Knucklebones Club hit fast. I felt the front door break. Heard muffled screams through the tether. The smell of smoke and cheap alcohol. Then the sensation of a body being slammed against a wall. Knucklebone wasn't strong enough to hold them off. He was loud, though. Loud doesn't help. I caught a flicker of his voice through the link, distorted but clear enough. Wait, who sent you? A Hellhound's snarl answered. Then silence. The club shifted. The crowd panicked. Some fled. Some tried to fight. The Hellhounds didn't waste time. A few minutes later, I felt a pulse from that pair that told me the building was secured. Their posture calmed. Their breathing steadied. They were holding territory now. Good. The second pair Sable was messy. Sewer access meant tight spaces, a lot of corners, and people who liked ambush. I felt sudden impacts, rapid shifts. A Hellhound took a blade across the shoulder and didn't stop. The pain flashed through the tether like a quick sting, then was drowned out by focus. Sable's crew tried to run. The Hellhounds didn't chase blindly. They destroyed the safe points. They tore out the places Sable's people hid and stored things. I felt panic rising in the link as Sable realized she couldn't just disappear and wait it out. Then she appeared. I sensed her approach like a cold line cutting through the warm noise. She attacked hard. Stronger than the average thug. Not a joke. The Hellhound took her hit, shifted, and drove her into the wall. Bones cracked. Not poetic. Just loud. Sable screamed and tried to crawl away. The Hellhound grabbed her by the throat and held her there. I felt her fear clearly, sharp and unpleasant. No, not that. Just fear. Simple and ugly. Then the Hellhound's intent came through the tether, asking without words. Kill? I considered it for less than a second. Yes, I sent back. There was a wet sound. The tether settled, calm again. No more Sable. The third pair Marrow was loud. Weapons dealers always got loud when they got surprised. Marrow had angel steel mixed into his stock, not as good as Carmela's, but enough to hurt. I felt the Hellhounds get nicked. Cuts that stung. One deeper slash across a flank. The link flashed with pain, then tightened into focus again. Marrow fired. Bullets. Shrapnel. Something explosive. The Hellhounds didn't care. They pushed through it. I felt the moment one of them got their jaws around Marrow's arm. He screamed. Then the other Hellhound hit his head against the floor hard enough that the screaming stopped. That pair sent me a steady pulse. Done. I exhaled slowly, satisfied. My escorts stayed still behind me, watching the street below. They were disciplined. They didn't break formation. They didn't ask questions. I turned away from the railing. We're not done, I said evenly. We walked again. The next targets were true average overlords. Not the flimsy ones. The ones with actual power, actual followers, and enough cruelty to hold their piece of the city through fear. They'd heard my name. They'd heard about the V's. They'd heard about tribute arrangements forming. They were going to test me sooner or later. So I made it sooner. I picked 3. Each had a turf that mattered for movement, a bridge route, a market strip, a weapons alley. Control of movement meant control of everything. I didn't go personally. I sent pairs. And I walked through the city while they fought. That was the part that felt almost relaxing. Letting the city watch me move while, elsewhere, my Hellhounds tore down crowns. A demon approached me on the sidewalk, trembling but trying to look brave. Apex, he said quickly, I represent. I cut him off. If you represent someone, they can show up themselves. He swallowed. They prefer not to. Then they prefer not to survive, I replied casually, and kept walking. My escorts didn't even look at him. The tether lit again. First average overlord, a woman called Vanta who ran the bridge route with a crew of masked enforcers. She was known for blinding people with her own hands. She didn't play nice. My pair met her on the bridge. I felt the wind off the open span through the link. Felt her power flare, a sharp pressure like darkness compressing space. She hit hard. She moved fast. One Hellhound took the brunt. The other circled, low, patient, then lunged. Vanta screamed orders to her people. They swarmed with blades. The Hellhounds did not stall. They ripped through bodies with quick, practiced violence. No hesitation. No mercy. I felt blood spray warm through the link, smelled iron and smoke, heard bones break. Vanta tried to retreat. One Hellhound caught her ankle and dragged her. She clawed at the asphalt, shrieking, trying to reach the edge where her crew could pull her. The Hellhound bit down and tore. She screamed louder, then tried to form something power, shadow, whatever she used to make people freeze. The other Hellhound hit her in the chest and slammed her against a rail. The rail bent. Her power flickered. That was the key moment. Not a speech. Not a negotiation. A flicker. Her hold on the contract-like fear she used cracked under direct domination. My Hellhound didn't wait. He bit her throat and snapped it. Vanta went limp. The bridge route was mine. Second average overlord, a bloated demon called Pulp who ran the market strip with bribes and threats. He liked public punishments. He kept bodies hanging as decoration. My hellhounds entered his market openly. I felt the crowd scatter like rats. I felt Pulp's voice booming, trying to sound in control. He shouted threats, promised rewards, offered deals. The hellhounds didn't answer. They found him behind his stall, surrounded by guards. Pulp tried to bargain. He tried to laugh. He tried to command. They tore his guards apart first. Then they dragged him into the open and broke him where people could see. I felt the final moments through the tether, his panic, his weight, his attempts to crawl away, the hellhound's jaws closing, the crowd screaming and then going silent. Pulp was dead. Market strip was mine. Third average overlord, a clean-looking demon called Reverend Glass who ran an alley network by acting like he was above the mess. He had followers who treated him like a prophet. He used calm words to control violence. My pair reached his place and hesitated for half a second. Not from fear. From calculation. The followers stood in lines, chanting, blocking entry. Reverend Glass stood at the top of the stairs, hands open, smiling like he was welcoming someone. I felt his voice through the tether, clear and controlled. "You don't have to do this," he said warmly. "There is a place for all of us." My hellhound didn't understand the performance. He understood threat. He surged forward, tearing through the first line. Followers screamed. Some fought. Many fled. Reverend Glass kept smiling, trying to maintain his calm. He raised his hand and unleashed power that felt like pressure on the lungs, like being told to kneel by force. My hellhound staggered. The other hellhound hit Reverend Glass directly, breaking his concentration. The first hellhound recovered instantly and lunged. Reverend Glass finally stopped smiling when he realized it wasn't working. He tried to run. The hellhound caught him and dragged him down the stairs. I felt the crunch of each step through the link. Then silence. Alley network was mine. I stopped walking and stood in the middle of the street, letting the city's noise wash around me. My escorts shifted subtly, forming a protective arc. My breathing was steady, but the pressure of maintaining the network had increased. Not enough to stop me. Enough to remind me I was scaling fast. A demon across the street stared at me with wide eyes. "That's him," he whispered to someone next to him. I smirked faintly and kept moving. By the time the pairs returned, the sunless red sky looked the same, but the streets didn't. People moved differently. They watched corners. They spoke quieter. They didn't assume they had time. Back at the motel, hellhounds filtered in one by one, some with blood on their fur, some with small cuts. None looked shaken. A few looked excited in that focused way that made them lean forward like they wanted more. I stood in the lobby and watched them settle into positions. "Report," I said. They didn't speak, but the network gave me everything. Success. New boundaries. New fear. New routes. I nodded once. Good. One hellhound limped slightly. I crouched and checked the wound. It was shallow. I pressed my thumb against it briefly. He didn't flinch. "You're fine," I said. He relaxed. I stood and looked at the cleared space again. Creating more would cost me. I could feel that clearly. My body had limits. But limits were something you worked around, not something you accepted. I focused inward. Heat rose. Pressure tightened. My claws flexed. My jaw set slightly. One hellhound formed. Then another. My breath thickened. My shoulders dipped for a fraction of a second. I forced them back level. "All right," I said evenly, voice calm. Welcome. They looked up at me, loyal, ready. I turned to two of my originals. One each, I said. They obeyed, creating two more. That made the pack even larger, the network heavier, my territory wider. I sat down on the couch again, elbows on my knees, and let myself breathe for a moment longer than usual. One of the hellhounds rested its head near my boot like it was claiming a spot. I glanced down and smiled faintly. Yeah, I said quietly. We're going to move fast. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, my motel felt like the center of something that was getting harder to ignore. Chapter 11, Bells that ring different. A week passed. Not the kind that drifted by unnoticed. The kind that rearranged habits. Streets learned new paths. Demons learned new words. Overlords learned when to stay quiet. By the end of it, the city didn't argue much about rankings anymore. Most didn't say it out loud, but they acted like it. Strongest in hell. I didn't announce it. I didn't need to. Power spoke fast here, and repetition made it stick. Routes stayed open because I allowed them to. Markets ran because I tolerated them. Overlords stopped posturing at my borders because hellhounds waited there, calm and patient, like they had nowhere else to be. I stood on the roof of the motel, hands in my pockets, looking out over what counted as my side of the city now. The red sky didn't change. The noise didn't stop. But it bent. Below me, hellhounds rotated patrols. More than before. Enough that the tether sat heavy but familiar, like armor you wore long enough that it stopped being uncomfortable. I adjusted without thinking. Breathing steady. Posture loose. No reason to rush. That's when the radio static started. Not from a device. From the air. I smiled faintly and didn't turn around right away. You know, I said casually, most people knock. Alastair's laughter crackled into existence behind me, cheerful and unbothered. Oh, my dear Apex, he said warmly, if I knocked, it would imply I needed permission. I turned and faced him. He stood a few steps back, hands clasped behind his back, suit immaculate as ever. Smile wide. Eyes sharp. The city's strongest radio demon looked relaxed. That's new, I said lightly. He chuckled. Is it? For you, I replied. He tilted his head, studying me openly now. You've grown into yourself quite nicely. Yeah, I said. Puberty hit late. He laughed again, delighted. Marvelous. We stood there for a moment, the city humming below us. No guards. No interruptions. He hadn't brought anyone. He didn't need to. I suppose congratulations are in order, Alastair said pleasantly. You've done what most demons only threaten to do. Efficiently? I asked. Decisively, he corrected. I nodded once. So you're here because? Because I keep my word, he said smoothly. That got my attention. He stepped closer, stopping a respectful distance away. I told you, he continued, that when you were the strongest thing in hell, we would revisit our little discussion. I looked at him. And here we are. Indeed, he replied. He straightened slightly, smile still in place but no longer playful. Focused now. I will release Husk from our contract, Alastair said calmly. No build-up. No theatrics. Just a statement. I exhaled slowly. Good. He raised a finger. However. I rolled my shoulders. There it is. He smiled wider. Before I do, I thought it only fair you understand something. I gestured lazily. You're big on context all of a sudden. Oh, I've always loved context, he replied. Especially when it's personal. He turned slightly, looking out over the city with me. His voice stayed light, but there was less performance in it now. When I was human, Alastair said, I made a deal. I glanced at him sideways. You don't say. Yes, he continued, unfazed. A deal for power. Influence. Permanence. I stayed quiet. Letting him talk felt smarter than interrupting. Rosie, he said, still smiling. Long before Cannibal Town had its current charm. That was interesting. He went on, tone conversational. In exchange for my rise, I agreed to work for her. Not as a servant, mind you. As an asset. I nodded slowly. That explains some things. He laughed softly. I do enjoy being understood. So, I said, you wanted to be the strongest. He replied. I wanted freedom. Strength was the currency. I leaned back against the railing. And husk. Collateral, Alastair said simply. A useful one, but never the point. I met his eyes. You're telling me this because... Because, he said, turning back to face me fully, you now occupy the position I once did. I smiled faintly. Strongest thing in hell. Precisely, he replied. And unlike me, you didn't bargain for it. I shrugged. Seems inefficient. He laughed, genuine amusement flickering. You are a fascinating creature. Hellhound, I corrected casually. He waved a hand. Details. There was a brief pause. I'll break the contract, Alastair said again, tone unchanged. No tricks. No delays. I nodded once. Good. He inclined his head slightly, respectful. You've earned that much. I pushed off the railing. Then we're done here. Almost, he said lightly. I do hope you won't hold my arrangement with Rosie against me. I smiled wider. I already talked to her. His eyes flickered with interest. Oh. We agreed to stay out of each other's way, I replied. Seems fair. Alastair chuckled. You're collecting quite the web. I like things organized, I said. He stepped back, radio static beginning to thrum again around his form. Very well. I'll see to Husk immediately. I nodded. I'll let him know. Do, Alastair said pleasantly. It should be illuminating. He vanished in a crackle of sound. The roof felt quieter after that. I took one more look at the city, then headed down. The walk to the Hazbin hotel felt different now. Not because the streets had changed, but because the people had. Demons noticed me sooner. Some bowed their heads slightly. Others stepped aside without thinking. A few stared openly, measuring, then deciding better of it. I didn't rush. I didn't slow down. The hotel came into view, bright as ever. Same flickering sign. Same stubborn optimism. I pushed the door open. The bell rang. Charlie looked up immediately from the front desk. Her smile lit up faster than before. Oh, she said happily. Hi. Vaggie glanced over, eyes sharp, then visibly relaxed when she recognized me. Hey, I said calmly. Angel Dust, lounging upside down on the couch, craned his neck. Well, if it isn't Hell's favorite dog. I smirked. That's Overlord now. He laughed. Figures. Husk stood behind the bar, bottle in hand. He looked up when he saw me, ears twitching slightly. I walked over and leaned against the counter. Got good news. His brow furrowed. You usually say that before something explodes. Not today, I replied. Angel slid closer, curiosity obvious. Nifty zipped over and stopped abruptly, peering up at me. Did you bring snacks? She asked. No, I said. Oh, she replied cheerfully. Okay. Charlie stepped closer, eyes bright. What's the good news? I looked at Husk. Alastair's breaking your contract. The room went very still. Husk stared at me. Then he laughed once, short and disbelieving. Yeah, okay. I'm serious, I said evenly. Angel's grin faded. Wait, what? Husk shook his head. No. No, he doesn't just. It's done, I replied. He came to me. Husk's ears flattened slightly. Why? Because he said he would, I answered. And because he doesn't get to pretend he's stronger anymore. Angel's eyes widened. Holy shit! Charlie covered her mouth. Husk. Husk looked down at the counter, knuckles tight around the bottle. His voice came out rougher. You're not screwing with me. I met his gaze. No. There was a long pause. Then Husk exhaled slowly and set the bottle down. His shoulders sagged a fraction, like something heavy had finally shifted. Damn, he muttered. Angel leaned closer, smiling wide. You're free, buddy. Husk didn't smile yet. He just closed his eyes for a second and breathed. Yeah, he said quietly. Looks like it. Charlie stepped forward and hugged him without warning. That's amazing. Husk stiffened, then awkwardly patted her shoulder. Yeah. Thanks. Angel laughed. Group hug. No, Husk said immediately. Nifty jumped anyway. Yay. I watched them for a moment, then glanced around the lobby. People were watching me differently now. Not wary. Not suspicious. Respectful. Vaggie caught my eye. You're changing things. I know, I replied. She studied me for a second, then nodded. Just, don't forget why this place exists. I smiled faintly. I won't. Charlie beamed. You're always welcome here. Dangerous offer, I said lightly. Angel grinned. You like danger. I pushed off the bar. I'll let you all process. Husk looked at me again. Hey. I stopped. Thanks, he said, quieter this time. I nodded once. Anytime. I turned toward the door. As I stepped outside, the bell rang again, sharp and clear. The city waited. Chapter 12, a date everyone knows. The next day started like I'd earned it. No urgent fires. No emergency runners pounding on my door. No random challengers trying to make a name by dying in my lobby. Just a quiet morning in a loud city, the kind that made people nervous because they didn't trust peace to last. I sat on the motel roof with my legs hanging over the edge, a drink in one hand, the other hand resting loosely on my knee. The red sky looked the same as always. The city below moved in its usual patterns, except the patterns were mine now. Hellhounds patrolled in clean rotations. They didn't bark at passers-by. They didn't chase distractions. They just watched. My territory's edges held firm. Street-level crews moved through my routes with less panic and more routine. Tribute runners came and went with their heads down and their mouths shut. It was almost pleasant. I took a slow sip and exhaled through my nose. I could get used to this. One hellhound sat beside me, large enough that the roof creaked under his weight. He didn't look at me. He looked outward, ears twitching at distant noises. You're the only one here who looks like you're at work, I said lightly. He flicked an ear once. I let my gaze drift across the skyline. Screens flickered farther out, some still patchy from the V's collapse, others rebuilt under new hands. Overlords didn't disappear. They just got replaced. That churn was part of the city's heartbeat. Down on the street in front of my motel, two minor demons argued over a bag. The moment one of my hellhounds glanced their way, they stopped arguing and walked in opposite directions without another word. Efficient. I shifted my shoulders once, feeling the familiar weight of the tethered network. The hellhounds weren't a swarm anymore. They were an infrastructure. They were everywhere I needed them to be, which meant I carried them everywhere I went. The strain was constant, but I'd learned the rhythm of it. Breath steady. Muscles warm. No sloppy movements. No obvious fatigue. I didn't like looking taxed. A sound rose from below, footsteps up the motel's stairs. Not running. Not sneaking. Someone making sure I heard them coming. I didn't move. A voice called up from the stairwell. Sir. I glanced over the edge. One of the minor overlords I'd folded into my banner stood at the top step. He was tall and thin, dressed in a coat that tried to look expensive and failed. He kept his hands visible. Smart. His eyes flicked to the hellhound beside me, then back to my face. He swallowed once. Come up, I said. He climbed onto the roof carefully, stopping a few feet away. My hellhound didn't shift, but his ears angled forward, listening. The overlord dipped his head. Sir. I smiled faintly. You look tense. Did someone forget to pay? No, sir, he replied quickly. Tribute is on schedule. Then what is it? I asked, and make it short. He nodded. I came to inform you that tomorrow is the extermination. The words hit like a sudden punch, clean and immediate. I didn't freeze. I didn't panic. But my posture changed before I could stop it. My spine straightened. My ears, still hellhound ears in practice, not just form, seemed to sharpen at every distant sound at once. I blinked once, hard. Tomorrow, I repeated. Yes, sir, he said. Shock wasn't the right word. I didn't get overwhelmed. But I did feel something sharp and annoyed cut through the calm. A tiny leak of emotion, quick and hot. The kind that made my jaw tighten. I set my drink down on the roof beside me. Then I stood. My claws scraped lightly on the tar. My tail flicked once behind me in a short, irritated motion. Why am I hearing this now? I asked, voice calm but tighter than before, instead of earlier. The minor overlord looked confused for half a second. Then he straightened as if he'd realized he was in danger of sounding insulting. Sir, he said carefully, that's common knowledge. I thought you knew. I stared at him. The city hummed beneath us. Distant laughter. A gunshot. A screen crackling with noise. Everything normal, which only made the new information feel worse. I exhaled slowly through my nose. Of course it's common knowledge, I said. He nodded quickly, relieved I wasn't biting his head off. Yes, sir. I ran one hand back through my hair, claws scraping lightly against my scalp. My mind snapped into motion, fast and practical. Extermination meant angels. Angelic weapons. Movement patterns. Safe spots. The usual chaos of sinners trying to survive, overlords securing assets, and the street turning into a massacre for entertainment and quota. I knew all of that. The annoying part was simple. I'd lost track of the date. Power didn't protect you from scheduling. I looked at him again. Why didn't you tell me sooner anyway? He hesitated, then answered honestly, which I appreciated. You've been busy, sir. No one wanted to bother you with something you already knew. I stared at him for another second, then nodded once. That, I said, is the dumbest thoughtful thing anyone's done for me this week. His face tightened, unsure how to respond. I waved it off. Not your fault. Mine. His eyes widened slightly at that, like he hadn't expected me to say it. I kept my tone even. How sure are you it's tomorrow? He nodded firmly. Very sure, sir. Everyone's preparing. Carmen's people started moving inventory yesterday. Cannibal Town is already locking its gates. I narrowed my eyes slightly. Carmilla started yesterday. Yes, sir. That stung more than it should have, mostly because it was predictable. Carmilla did preparation right. Rosie did preparation right. Even the pathetic little gangs did preparation right, in their messy way. And I'd been sitting on a roof drinking like I was on vacation. I clicked my tongue once. The hellhound beside me shifted slightly and looked up at me. Not confused. Just attentive. He felt my tension through the tether. I looked down at him and tapped his head once with 2 fingers. We're fine, I said quietly. Then I looked back to the minor overlord. What's your name again? He straightened. Sabletone, sir. I blinked. That's unfortunate. He stiffened, but didn't protest. I nodded once. All right, Sabletone. Good job bringing it to me even if it's late. Go tell everyone under my banner that we're moving into extermination protocol today. His eyes sharpened. Yes, sir. What does that mean exactly? It means, I said, they stop fighting each other for 24 hours unless it's directly for survival. They secure their people, their stashes, their exits, and they listen to my hellhounds. He nodded rapidly. Understood. And, I added, anyone who tries to use extermination chaos to raid my roots gets put down. Yes, sir, he replied. I stepped closer, close enough that he had to look up slightly. I kept my voice calm. If anyone under me dies tomorrow because they got stupid, I'll replace them. Not mourn them. He swallowed. Yes, sir. I smiled faintly. Great. Go. He hurried toward the stairs. I watched him leave, then stared out over the city again. Tomorrow. The timing mattered. I reached inward through the tether and sent a quiet pulse through the network. Not a command to kill. A command to shift. All patrols tighten. All scouts report. No unnecessary fights. Move weapons to safe points. The response came back instantly in 1,000 small adjustments. Hellhounds changing routes. Hellhounds stopping random intimidation and focusing on observation. Hellhounds moving caches I'd already established. Hellhounds taking positions near exits, near rooftops, near structures that could be defended. Good. I picked up my drink again, took one sip, then set it down untouched. No, I muttered. No lounging. I turned and headed down from the roof. Inside the motel, it was already in motion. Hellhounds moved like they'd been waiting for a reason. A few looked at me as I entered. I didn't need to speak for them to feel the shift. I walked to the makeshift map table and grabbed a marker, drawing quick lines. Routes that would become death traps. Areas where angels usually swept. Buildings that could hold up. Sewers that could hide demons if they were smart and fast. The motel wasn't a fortress, but it was solid enough. I'd reinforced it in the practical ways: controlled entrances, escape exits, rooftop access, interior choke points. My hellhounds could hold it. The bigger question was territory. Extermination didn't respect borders. Angels would cut through wherever they pleased. That meant I needed two things: angelic weapons placed smartly, and hellhounds positioned so that even if they couldn't kill an angel, they could delay, distract, and drag people out of the path. I also had one advantage most overlords didn't: numbers. Not infinite, but enough. I stood there, staring at my map, then exhaled once. Okay, I said aloud. We're doing this properly. A hellhound padded closer and sat beside the table. Another sat opposite. Several stood back, waiting. I tapped the map. First. Everyone under me gets clear instructions today. No guessing. I pointed to one hellhound. You. Go to the gambling den. Tell them the bridge route is closed tomorrow. I don't care what deals they had. Closed. The hellhound left immediately. I pointed to another. You. Go to the market strip. Pull the tribute runners inside. No one's wandering tomorrow. He left. I pointed to another. You. Get me Carmela's number. The hellhound tilted his head. I sighed. Not literally. Go to her territory. Tell her Apex wants one more purchase. Immediate. He left. I paused a moment, then added, quieter, and don't start a fight unless she does. He left. I stared at the remaining hellhounds and made a quick decision. Two more, I said. They didn't react. They just watched. I stepped into the cleared space and focused inward. The pressure rose quickly, like it was eager. Heat built through my chest and shoulders. My breath thickened slightly. One hellhound formed. Then another. My muscles felt heavier immediately. Not enough to stop me from standing straight, but enough that I noticed my own breathing for a second. I clicked my tongue. Okay. That's it. The two new hellhounds looked up at me, loyal, waiting. You're on rooftop defense, I said calmly. You listen to the originals. They understood instantly. I turned away and walked toward the motel's back room where I stored the angelic weapons. The bundles were still there, wrapped and secured. I unwrapped them carefully, checking each piece. Blades. Spears. A few specialized items that Carmela's stock carried. I didn't waste time fantasizing about killing angels. That wasn't the point. Angelic weapons were deterrents. They were leverage. Even if I couldn't wipe out exterminators by myself, I could make it costly for them to come too close to my core. I laid the weapons out and began assigning them. Not to the newest hellhounds. To the most disciplined ones. The ones who didn't get excited and overcommit. If a hellhound with an angelic spear got reckless, that spear would become someone else's weapon after the hellhound got cut apart. I wasn't sentimental. I was practical. A hellhound appeared at the doorway. He dipped his head quickly, then moved aside as another figure entered behind him. One of my banner overlords. Another minor one, dressed better than Sabletone, more cautious, more calculating. She kept her hands folded in front of her, posture respectful. Apex, she said. I looked at her. You're early. She nodded. We heard the extermination is tomorrow. I paused my weapon sorting and stared at her. She stiffened slightly. Sir. I exhaled slowly. Yes. I know now. Her expression softened with relief. Good. We wanted guidance. I nodded toward the table. Sit. She sat in a chair near the door, careful not to look too comfortable. What do you have? I asked. Supplies, she replied. Safe houses. People who can move quietly. Good, I said. Then you're in charge of evacuations. Anyone under my banner who can't fight stays off the street tomorrow. You will coordinate that. Her eyes widened slightly. Understood. I picked up a blade, tested its balance in my hand, then set it down. Also, if anyone gets cute and tries to raid another banner member during the extermination, you report it to me immediately. She nodded. Yes, sir. I looked up at her. What's your name? Mirabelle, she replied. I blinked once. That's almost normal. She gave a small, nervous smile. I continued calmly. Mirabelle, I'm going to be blunt. Tomorrow, angels come through like a storm. You can't bargain with them. You can't scare them. You can't bribe them. You either hide, run, or fight with the right tools. She nodded again, swallowing. Yes. I pointed at a small list on the wall. I'm sending hellhounds to each of your safe houses today. They'll help organize. They'll also make sure no one panics and does something stupid. She hesitated. They won't eat them. I smiled faintly. Not unless I tell them to. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. A sound came from the front lobby, another runner arriving. The motel was turning into a command center whether I liked it or not. I stepped past Mirabelle. Wait here, I said. She nodded and stayed seated. I walked into the lobby. Sabletone was back, breathing a little hard. Sir. People are asking if we're relocating to deeper territory. I stared at him. No. He blinked. No, sir. We don't abandon what we built, I replied. We harden it. He swallowed. Understood. Another demon entered behind him, a messenger from one of my newly recruited routes. Sir, the bridge route is closing already. People are upset. Let them be upset, I said. The messenger nodded quickly. Yes, sir. My Hellhound network pulsed again. One of the scouts returned with a sensation of movement near Cannibal Town. Rosie's borders tightening. Gates closing. Bodies moving. I also felt another tether pull, the two Hellhounds still at the Hazbin Hotel, safe, calm, still guests. Charlie would be preparing too. She always tried. Vaggie would be tense. Husk would be more focused now that he wasn't leashed. I made a quick decision. I looked at the nearest Hellhound. You, I said. Go to the Hazbin Hotel. Tell Charlie the extermination is tomorrow. Tell her to keep her people inside. No heroic street walks. The Hellhound left instantly. Sabletone watched, then asked carefully, Sir, do you want to leave the city center today? I stared at him like he'd asked if I wanted to stop breathing. No. He flinched slightly. Yes, sir. I turned back toward the weapon room and started moving gear into distribution piles. Spears for rooftop defense. Blades for choke points. A couple of items reserved for me, not because I needed to swing them constantly, but because if something went wrong, I wanted the option of ending it fast. As I worked, I felt the irritation fade into clean focus. Tomorrow was extermination. That meant today was preparation. I didn't like being surprised. I didn't like being late. But I could work with reality. I always could. Mirabelle stood when I returned, posture stiff. Sir, will you be fighting tomorrow? I glanced at her. If something comes into my territory, yes. She hesitated. And if angels enter the core? I smiled faintly. Then they'll learn why people call me the strongest. She nodded slowly, then looked down. Understood. I handed her a bundle of instructions. Take this. Assign your people. If you can't read it, find someone who can. She accepted it quickly. Yes, sir. Sabletone hovered near the doorway, still anxious. "Sir, one more question." I looked at him. "Make it worth my time." He swallowed. "Why didn't you know the date?" The question landed awkwardly. He realized it immediately and stiffened. "I mean sorry, sir, I waved it off. "Because I've been busy," I said evenly. "And because no one wanted to bother me with common knowledge." He nodded, embarrassed. "Yes, sir." I pointed at him. "From now on, you bother me. If it's important, you say it even if you think I know." His eyes widened. "Yes, sir. Absolutely." I nodded once. "Good." Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, my motel shifted into something sharper, more organized, more ready. I set the last spear against the wall and looked over the Hellhounds gathering for assignment. "All right," I said, voice calm. "We're not playing today. Everyone gets a job. Everyone follows it. If you see angels tomorrow, you don't charge like an idiot unless you have a weapon that matters." The pack stayed still, listening. I continued, "And if anyone under my banner tries to start a side war during the extermination, you stop them. Permanently." Tails flicked once. "Agreement." I inhaled slowly, feeling the tether tighten as the network aligned. Then I started pointing and sending them out. One by one. Clean rolls. Clear routes. No confusion. Tomorrow was extermination. Today was mine. Chapter 13, Inventory first, Walls second. I didn't waste the rest of the day talking about tomorrow like it was a bedtime story. I treated it like a deadline. The motel lobby had turned into a working space. Weapons stacked against one wall. Maps pinned down with blades. Notes scribbled on scraps of cardboard. Minor overlords rotated in and out with updates, each one looking more nervous than they wanted to admit. I let them talk. I filtered what mattered. I ignored what didn't. Then I looked at the angelic weapons pile and felt the obvious problem. Not enough. Not for what I'd built. I turned toward the nearest Hellhound, one of my originals, and pointed once. "You're with me." He stood immediately. I pointed again. "You four. Escort." 4 Hellhounds stepped forward. They didn't crowd me. They just positioned themselves like they'd always done this. Sabletone hovered near the doorway, still eager to be useful. "Sir, do you want?" I cut him off with a raised hand. "Stay here. If anyone shows up with news today, you take it. If they ask for me, you tell them I'm busy preventing them from dying." He swallowed. "Yes, sir." Mirabelle stepped forward, clutching the instruction bundle I'd given her. "Sir, safe houses are being stocked. We're moving people now." "Good," I said. "No loitering. No arguing. If anyone refuses, leave them." Her eyes widened slightly. "Leave them?" "Yes," I replied evenly. "Tomorrow won't care how stubborn they were." She nodded quickly. "Understood." I walked out with my escort. The door shut behind us, and the street noise returned immediately. Carmela's territory sat like a hard-edged machine compared to most of the city. Reinforced structures. Guards who didn't posture. People who didn't talk unless they had something to say. I respected it. Function was rare. As we approached, a pair of her armed escorts stepped out to block the entrance. They didn't raise weapons. They didn't flinch. They just stood there like they belonged. One of them recognized me and dipped his head slightly. "Apex. Carmilla expecting me?" I asked calmly. The guard's eyes flicked to my Hellhounds, then back. She was informed. Then we're good, I replied. He stepped aside and opened the door. No drama. No delay. Inside, the air smelled like oil and metal. The floor was clean. Not fancy clean, practical clean. You could drag a bleeding body across it and still know where the blood ended. Carmilla waited near the same long table as last time, weapons laid out in precise rows. Her daughters were nearby, standing slightly behind her, faces composed, posture protective. Carmilla looked up as I entered. Her expression didn't change much, but her eyes sharpened slightly. Apex, she said evenly. You're early. Extermination tomorrow, I replied. She nodded once. Yes. I stared at her for a second. So everyone knew. Her mouth twitched faintly. Everyone pays attention to the calendar. I exhaled through my nose. Yet. That's on me. Carmilla's gaze stayed steady. What do you need? More, I said. As much as you can spare without weakening yourself. Her brow lifted slightly. That's a large order. Then give me a large number, I replied. One of her daughters glanced between us, tense but silent. Carmilla stepped closer to the table and gestured toward a different section than last time. This is what I have available for immediate sale. The rest is already allocated. I moved in and inspected the stock. Blades. Spears. Shorter weapons designed for close corridors. A few pieces that looked heavier, reinforced, meant to survive repeated impact. Price, I said. She named it. I nodded. Done. Her eyes narrowed slightly. No negotiation again. You're not overcharging, I replied. And I don't have time for theater. She gave a small, approving nod. Good. I pointed at several items. These. Two of those. And every spear you're willing to part with. One daughter spoke for the first time, voice careful. Sir, that's... Carmilla lifted a hand slightly, and her daughter stopped immediately. Carmilla looked at me. You're fortifying. Yes, I replied. She studied my face. Your hellhounds will be using these. Some, I said. Carmilla's eyes flicked to my escort hellhounds. Can they? They can follow instructions, I replied. That's what matters. Her smile was minimal, but real. Instructions are rare. I reached into my coat and produced the payment without delay. Carmilla didn't look surprised. She didn't look pleased either. She just looked like someone who liked clean transactions. Delivery, she said. You want it moved to your motel? Yes, I replied. Today. That will draw attention, one daughter said, tone tight. I glanced at her. Everything draws attention. Carmilla nodded. My people can deliver discreetly. But understand something, Apex. I met her eyes. Say it. She folded her hands behind her back. Angelic weapons attract desperate behavior. Theft attempts. Betrayal. People will risk their lives for one blade. I know, I replied. Her gaze stayed steady. If my delivery team is attacked, I will respond. I'm not stopping you, I said. That earned a faint tilt of her head. Noted. I turned to leave, then paused and looked back. Carmilla, I said. Yes. If you get hit tomorrow, I said evenly, and you need a corridor cleared, you send word through my banner routes. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You're offering help. I'm offering efficiency, I replied. If your territory collapses, it causes problems for mine. She stared at me for a moment, then nodded once. Understood. I stepped toward the door. One of her daughters spoke quietly, almost reluctant. Apex. I glanced back. Yet. She looked at my hellhounds, then at me. Be careful. I smiled faintly. I'm the strongest. I don't get to be careless. I walked out. The escort stayed tight around me as we moved back through the streets. I didn't try to hide. There was no point. The city already knew something was happening. You could smell preparation in hell. People boarded windows. They moved supplies into basements. They fought less in public, not out of decency, but because they wanted energy for tomorrow. As we crossed an intersection, a demon shouted from a balcony, voice strained. Apex. Is it true? Extermination tomorrow. I didn't stop walking. I looked up briefly. Yes. The demon flinched, then scrambled back inside. My hellhound beside me made a low sound, annoyed. Don't, I said quietly. He stopped. We reached my block. The moment we stepped into my territory, the tension changed. It wasn't safe. It was controlled. Hellhounds watched rooftops. Hellhounds stood near alley mouths. Hellhounds moved supply crates inside buildings with quick, quiet coordination. Sabletone met me at the motel entrance, looking relieved. Sir, we've been moving people. Tribute runners are inside. Safe houses are filling. Good, I replied. He glanced at the street behind me. Did you get? Carmela's delivering more weapons, I said. Today. His eyes widened. That's great. It's also a problem if we're sloppy, I replied. His face tightened. Right. Yes, sir. I stepped inside and immediately felt the motel's internal system adjust to my presence. Hellhounds shifted. Posts realigned. Someone moved a chair out of a path without being told. Mirabelle was in the corner with a map and two nervous demons, giving instructions. She looked up when she saw me. Sir. Keep going, I said. Don't pause for me. She nodded and continued. I walked into the back room and laid out my new plan on the table. Choke points. That was the only word I needed. Angels didn't care about territory lines. But they moved through streets like anyone else. Wide openings made them faster. Narrow corridors made them slower. Anything that forced them to funnel created time. Time was survival. I tapped the map with a claw and began assigning zones. Zone 1, I said aloud, so the hellhounds and the nearby banner demons could hear. Front Street approach. 2 rooftop squads. 1 ground squad. All armed. 3 hellhounds in the lobby lifted their heads slightly, listening. I pointed at one of my originals. Your rooftop squad lead for Zone 1. He stood and waited. Pick 4, I told him. He moved through the pack and selected 4 with quick nudges. They followed him immediately. I pointed at another hellhound. Zone 2. Alley access behind the motel. That's where idiots will run when angels show up. That's also where raiders will try to slip in. The hellhound's ears angled forward. Your lead, I said. Pick 5. 2 get spears. The rest get blades. He moved and selected. I kept going. Zone 3 was the market strip entrance, now under my control. Zone 4 was the bridge route. Zone 5 was the safe house corridor that Mirabelle was coordinating. For each zone, I assigned a lead hellhound. Not the strongest. The most disciplined. Then I assigned a messenger chain. Not demons. Hellhounds. They were faster, quieter, and didn't lie. Sabletone stood near me, trying to keep up. Sir, what about the minor overlords under your banner who want extra protection tomorrow? I looked at him. They get what they paid for. He hesitated. And if they ask for more? Then they pay more, I replied. He swallowed. Yes, sir. A hellhound returned from outside and dropped a small piece of cloth on the floor. A gang marker. Someone probing the border. I stared at it. Already. Mirabelle glanced over, tense. Sir, do you want us to? I raised a hand. I'll handle it. I crouched and touched the hellhound's head. Show me. He turned and headed toward the door. I followed at a calm pace, my escort hellhounds shifting around me automatically. Outside, 2 demons stood at the edge of my block, trying to look casual and failing. They wore mismatched armor and carried cheap weapons. Raiders. The kind that took advantage of extermination chaos to steal from others who were hiding. They saw me and froze. One tried to smile. Apex. I walked closer. You're early. The demon's smile trembled. We were just scouting, I finished for him. Looking for easy supplies. The other demon swallowed hard. No, sir. I looked at my hellhounds. Take them. The hellhounds moved instantly. No long fight. No dramatic chase. One demon tried to run. A hellhound caught him by the back of the leg and dragged him down. The other demon raised his weapon and screamed. A hellhound bit his arm and tore it off. The screaming turned into choking. I watched, expression calm. Mirabelle's voice came from behind me, strained. Sir. I glanced back at her. They were going to raid during extermination. They were going to get people killed. She didn't argue. She just looked pale. Sabletone swallowed, eyes wide. I turned back to the demons on the ground. One was trying to crawl away. The other was clutching his torn shoulder, crying. I stepped forward and crouched. You don't come here, I said evenly. The demon sobbed. Please. I stood and nodded at my hellhound. The hellhound ended it quickly. I turned away as if it were nothing and walked back inside. No one stopped me. No one spoke for a moment. Then I clapped my hands once. All right. Focus. The lobby snapped back into motion. I returned to the map table. Any other probes? A hellhound nudged a second cloth marker forward. I stared at it. Different symbol. Different crew. Handle it, I said. The hellhound left immediately with 2 others following. Mirabelle swallowed and forced herself back to work. Safe houses are being reinforced, she said, voice tight. We're moving supplies underground. Good, I replied. Sabletone stepped closer. Sir, some are asking if they should go to Cannibal Town. Rosie's gates are closing. I shook my head. No mass movement into someone else's territory. That creates panic and fights. We keep people where we can control them. Sabletone nodded quickly. Yes, sir. I felt a tug in the network. 2 hellhounds still at the Hazbin hotel. They were stable. Safe. Charlie's building was not under my banner, but the presence of my hellhounds there created a thread of awareness. They weren't in danger yet. Not today. I focused on what was in front of me. Fortifying the motel meant making it unattractive. I sent hellhounds to drag debris into the street, creating obstacles. I ordered window boards installed from inside so they couldn't be pulled off easily. I had squads set up fallback positions within the motel itself, hallway choke points, stairwell traps, roof access locks. The weapons Carmilla had already sold me were distributed carefully. Spears went to rooftop squads. Blades went to corridor squads. Only a few Hellhounds received angelic weapons, and each one was paired with a second Hellhound whose only job was to protect the weapon carrier from being swarmed. It was simple. It was ugly. It was effective. Mid-afternoon, Carmela's delivery arrived. 2 armored demons pulled a reinforced cart into my street. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't look around too much. They moved like professionals. My Hellhounds surrounded them instantly, not threatening, just controlling space. I stepped outside and met the lead courier halfway. He nodded. Apex. Delivery intact? I asked. Yes, he replied. No one followed you? I asked. He hesitated, then answered honestly. A few tried. I smiled faintly. Tried. He nodded. They didn't persist. Good, I said. Unload inside. He gestured to his crew. They moved quickly, sliding crates into my motel through the side entrance. My Hellhounds assisted, lifting and carrying without complaint. Mirabelle watched the crates with open relief. That's a lot. It's still not enough, I replied. She blinked. Not enough. I looked at her. Tomorrow's going to be messy. She nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Sabletone cleared his throat. Sir, should we tell the banner members that you acquired more weapons? I shook my head. No. The fewer people who know where the blades are stored, the fewer people who try to steal them. He nodded quickly. Yes, sir. The courier finished unloading and turned to leave. Before he did, he looked at my Hellhounds with a cautious expression. They're organized. Yes, I replied. He hesitated. Carmilla says you pay fast. I do, I said. He nodded once, then left without another word. The rest of the day blurred into work. I walked the perimeter myself, checking each defensive zone. Not because I didn't trust the Hellhounds, but because seeing it with my own eyes mattered. I corrected placements. I shifted squads. I replaced one lead who was too eager with one who was calmer. Eager got you killed tomorrow. Once, I stopped on a rooftop and stared out toward the skyline. A distant scream echoed, then cut off. Somewhere, someone was already killing someone else for supplies. I didn't intervene. That wasn't my job. My job was ensuring my territory held, my banner stayed functional, and my Hellhounds didn't waste themselves. As evening approached, Mirabelle handed me a final list. Safe houses stocked. Runners placed. People assigned. I scanned it quickly. Good. She hesitated. Sir, will you sleep? I looked at her. A little. She nodded, still nervous. Okay. Sabletone stepped closer, looking proud of himself for once. Sir, the banner members are following instructions. No fights reported in the last hour. I smiled faintly. Miracles happen. He let out a short, relieved laugh, then stopped himself as if he wasn't sure that was allowed. I walked back into the motel and looked at the pack gathered in the lobby. They were calm. Ready. Watching me like I was a fixed point. I rolled my shoulders once, feeling the weight of the network again. Heavier than it had been a week ago. Stronger too. More stable. More disciplined. All right, I said evenly. Final check. I looked at each squad lead in turn. Zone 1, report. A Hellhound stepped forward and gave a short sound, steady and confident. Zone 2. Another stepped forward, tail flicking once. Zone 3. Another, calm. All ready. I nodded once, satisfied. Then I pointed at two of the newest hellhounds. Your night watch. If anything moves near the weapons room, you tear it apart. They understood instantly. I walked toward the back room and sat on a chair, leaning forward with elbows on my knees. The angelic blade nearest me caught the red light. I didn't touch it. I just let it sit there as a reminder of what tomorrow meant. Outside, the city kept preparing. Inside, my territory stayed quiet, tight, and ready. Chapter 14, Steel, Static, and First Man. I didn't head to the Hazbin hotel because I wanted to play hero. I headed there because I didn't like loose ends, and because tomorrow had turned into today faster than anyone deserved. The extermination didn't arrive with a bell. It arrived with screaming. By the time I crossed the last few blocks, the city sounded wrong. Not louder. Sharper. More focused. Like the random violence had been replaced by something organized and cruel. I smelled smoke, blood, and that clean, bright sting that didn't belong in hell. Angels. My hellhounds moved through the streets in tight pairs, doing what I'd told them, clearing routes, dragging banner members into cover, killing anyone who tried to take advantage. I didn't bring the whole pack with me. I brought enough to matter. I could feel the network stretching across the city anyway, every thread humming with movement and stress. I kept my pace steady. The closer I got to the hotel, the more bodies I saw. Demons cut down in the streets, some already dissolving, some still twitching, some trying to crawl somewhere that didn't exist. A few exorcists moved in the distance, wings flaring as they cut through sinners like it was a sport. I wasn't interested in chasing them around the streets. I was interested in the hotel. When the Hazbin hotel came into view, it didn't look bright anymore. Smoke hung over the roofline. The front area was torn up. The big cheerful facade looked like it had been punched and clawed and blasted from multiple angles. Pieces of signage were scattered. Glass crunched under my claws when I stepped into the wreckage around the front steps. Then I heard it. Adam's voice. Loud. Crude. Confident in a way that didn't belong to someone standing in a battlefield. I moved faster. The front doors were damaged. I shoved through what remained of them and stepped into the lobby. The smell hit first. Blood, dust, burned carpet, and the bright sting of angelic power. The floor was torn up. Furniture was overturned. A section of wall had been blasted open, exposing structural beams. Charlie was somewhere deeper inside, shouting orders. Vaggy's voice cut through from a hallway, tight and angry. Angel's voice was higher, panicked but trying to keep it together. And in the center of the wreck, Alastair was down. Not dead. Down. He was on one knee, coat torn, blood dark against his shirt. His smile wasn't gone, but it was strained now, flickering like a broken broadcast. His eyes were still sharp, but his posture betrayed the fact that he'd taken a hit he hadn't expected. Adam stood a few steps away, wings spread, halo bright, spear in hand. His grin was wide, and his body language screamed that he was enjoying himself. He looked like he'd just won a contest and wanted an audience. He lifted his spear and jabbed it forward slightly, not to kill Alastair immediately, just to remind him who was in control. You thought you were special, Adam said loudly, laughing. Radio boy. You thought you had something going. Alastair's laugh crackled, forced cheerful. Oh, my dear, Adam cut him off with a sharp shove of angelic power that knocked Alastair back a half step. Alastair caught himself, but it cost him. His hand trembled briefly before he made it still. I stopped in the lobby entrance and let Adam see me. He didn't turn right away. He was still enjoying the moment. Ah, Adam said, voice dripping smug. Look at you. All that noise, all that confidence, and you're still just another sinner with a cute little gimmick. Alastair's eyes flicked toward me for a fraction of a second. A small acknowledgement. Nothing more. I walked forward casually, boots stepping through broken glass, my claws clicking as they scraped the floor. My presence made the air shift. Not mystical. Practical. People made space when something dangerous entered the room. Adam finally turned his head and looked at me. His eyes ran over my form. Hellhound body. Size. Musculature. The way I carried myself. Then his grin widened again. "Oh, what's this?" he said, amused. "Another dog? This place is basically a shelter." I smiled faintly. I kept walking until I stood between him and Alastair, not blocking fully, but making the line of attack inconvenient. Adam raised his brows. "You lost, puppy." "I'm good," I said evenly. Adam laughed. "You here to beg too?" "No," I replied. "I'm here to stop you from wasting time." Adam's smile turned sharper. "Wasting time? Buddy, this is literally my favorite thing." I tilted my head slightly. "Yeah, I can tell." Adam took a step forward, spear angled down toward me. His face shifted as he looked closer, and I saw the moment it clicked for him. Not immediately. Not magically. He noticed something in the way my presence felt. Something that didn't match the sinners around him. His eyes narrowed. "What are you?" Adam said, voice dropping slightly. I smirked. "Apex," I replied casually. Adam snorted. "No, I mean what are you really? You're not like the rest of these gross idiots." I kept my voice calm. "I'm not a sinner." The room tightened. Charlie's voice faltered somewhere down the hall like she'd just heard something that didn't make sense. Vaggy's footsteps stopped. Angel went quiet. Husk's voice didn't speak, but I could feel him watching from somewhere behind the bar area, tense and alert. Alastair's smile sharpened again, like he found the situation entertaining even while bleeding. Adam's expression shifted into open interest. "Oh," he said slowly, grin spreading. "That's new." He pointed his spear at me. "So what, you some kind of hellborn mutt that thinks he's important?" "I am important," I replied. Adam laughed loud. "That's adorable." I glanced over my shoulder slightly, not looking away fully, just letting Adam see that I wasn't stressed. "Also," I added, "can you stop talking like that?" Adam blinked once. "Like what?" "Like a teenager who just learned swears," I said evenly. "My hellhounds are nearby." Adam stared at me for half a second. Then he laughed again. "Are you serious?" "Yes," I replied. Alastair's laugh crackled softly behind me. "Oh, I do like him," he said lightly, voice still tinted with radio distortion. Adam looked past me at Alastair. "Shut up." I looked back at Adam. "See? That? Less of that." Adam grinned wider, clearly refusing out of principle. "No." I sighed lightly. "Fine. Then at least aim it at me and not the building. It's already having a bad day." Adam's halo brightened slightly. "You're mouthy." I smiled. "I'm efficient." Adam stepped forward and swung his spear in a fast, direct arc at my head. I moved. Not frantic. Not dramatic. Clean. I shifted my weight and slipped to the side, letting the spear pass close enough that I felt the sharp sting of angelic energy in the air. The floor behind me cracked where the spear hit. Dust burst upward. I reached out and grabbed the shaft with one hand. Adam's eyes widened slightly at the contact. He yanked, trying to rip it free. I didn't let him. My grip held. My muscles tensed once, steady. Adam's grin returned, now more excited. Okay, he said. Okay, you're fun. I pulled the spear toward me, forcing him to step closer. Then I drove my knee up into his midsection. The impact didn't fold him like a normal opponent. He was angelic, reinforced, strong. But it forced air out of him, and his boots scraped backward. He hissed, annoyed, and slammed his elbow down toward my skull. I released the spear and leaned back, letting the elbow hit air. The motion carried him forward. I drove a clawed hand into his chest and shoved. Adam slid back 2 steps, wings flaring. He laughed again, but it sounded different now. Less lazy. More focused. You're not a sinner, he said, voice sharp, but you fight like you've been practicing on them. I have, I replied. Adam lifted his spear again and snapped it forward in a thrust aimed at my throat. I ducked under it and moved inside his reach. My shoulder slammed into him, and we hit the remains of a lobby column. The wood split. Plaster rained down. Adam snarled, then head-butted me. My vision flashed white for a fraction of a second. My skull rang. I grinned anyway. That's rude, I said. Adam shoved off me and jumped back, wings beating once to give him space. He raised the spear and pointed it at my chest. Angelic light gathered at the tip. I didn't stand still. I sprinted forward before he could fire cleanly, closing the distance fast. He released a blast anyway. It caught my shoulder and tore through fur, burning hot. Pain flared sharp and immediate. I didn't slow. I slammed into him again, grabbed the spear shaft, and twisted hard. The weapon wrenched sideways. Adam's grip tightened. He was strong. So was I. We strained against each other for a second, muscles locked, floor groaning under our shifting weight. I could feel the tether pull in the background, hellhounds at the perimeter sensing my engagement, focusing toward the hotel without entering unless I called. Adam's eyes narrowed, studying my face. You're really doing this, he said, almost impressed. Yes, I replied. Why? He demanded, voice rising. For the princess? For redemption? For charity? I snorted softly. No. Adam's grin returned. Then what? I yanked the spear toward me, forcing his arms forward, then kicked his knee sideways. His stance buckled for half a second. I used that moment to elbow him across the jaw. His head snapped to the side. A thin line of bright blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Adam wiped it with his thumb, stared at it, and laughed. Oh, he said. Oh, I am absolutely killing you. I shrugged. Try. Adam's wings flared wide, and he surged forward with speed that matched mine, spear sweeping low to take my legs. I jumped. The spear sliced under me and tore a gouge through the floorboards. I landed on the remains of the bar counter, wood cracking under my weight, then launched myself forward again. Adam swung upward mid-motion. The spear caught my ribs, scraping and burning. Pain spiked. I grunted once, more annoyed than scared. I grabbed his wrist with one hand, the spear shaft with the other, and wrenched both downward. He resisted, muscles locked. His face twisted in frustration. You're not supposed to be this strong, Adam snarled. I smiled. Yeah, I get that a lot. I drove my forehead into his face. He staggered back, wings beating once, and the spear slipped from his grip for the first time. It clattered across the floor and skidded into debris. The room went quiet for half a second. Alastair's voice crackled behind me, amused and strained. My, he said lightly. How entertaining. Adam wiped his nose with the back of his hand and stared at me like he'd decided I was now personal. You know, he said, voice low, I was gonna wipe this place and go home. But now I'm curious. I tilted my head. Curious about what? He pointed at me with 2 fingers, then flexed them like he wanted to grab something invisible. How the hell a hellhound got strong enough to stand in front of me? I shrugged. Hard work. Adam laughed again. Bullshit. I glanced around the lobby. Charlie stood at the end of a hallway, eyes wide, hands trembling slightly as she clutched something likely a weapon she wasn't fully comfortable using. Vaggie stood beside her, spear tight in her grip, face furious but controlled. Angel peeked from behind a broken wall section, eyes glued to me, mouth slightly open. Husk was behind the bar remnants, ears low, watching with a tight expression that looked like he didn't know whether to be relieved or furious. Alastair stayed behind me, still upright but clearly damaged. I looked back at Adam. Also, I said calmly, watch your mouth. Adam blinked. You're still on that? Yes, I replied. It's annoying. Adam's grin turned mean. You're annoying. Good, I said. Adam launched toward the fallen spear with a quick wing beat. I moved too. We hit it at almost the same time. His hand closed on the shaft first. I grabbed the blade end with my claws, ignoring the burn long enough to yank it sideways. The spear jerked. Adam's eyes widened again. We both pulled. The angelic energy burned into my palm. My fur singed. I bared my teeth, not in fear, just in irritation at the discomfort. Adam twisted his body and used the spear like a lever, trying to fling me off balance. I let my grip slide, then lunged in and punched him square in the chest before he could reset. He flew backward and slammed into a support beam. The beam cracked. Charlie shouted my name from down the hallway. Apex. I didn't look at her. I kept my eyes on Adam. Adam straightened slowly, rolling his shoulders, wings twitching. His spear remained in his hand. He spun it once, loosening his grip, then aimed it at my face again. You're not a sinner, he said again, more certain now, like he was confirming it for himself. And you're not an exorcist. No, I replied. So what, he said, tone sharp, you think that makes you special? I smiled faintly. No. My results do. Adam's halo brightened. He thrust the spear forward and fired a concentrated blast from the tip at close range. I couldn't fully dodge it. I threw my arm up to shield my face. The blast hit my forearm and scorched deep, pain flaring. The smell of burned fur hit my nose. I growled low, controlled. Adam surged forward behind the blast, spear angled to stab through my guard. I stepped into it instead. I caught the spear shaft under my arm, pinning it against my ribs, and used my other hand to grab Adam's collar. The angelic energy still burned, but I held anyway. Then I slammed him forward into the floor. Hard. The tile shattered. Dust and splinters flew. Adam's wings flared out, scraping against debris. He snarled and elbowed me again, connecting with my cheek. My head snapped slightly. I spat blood to the side without thinking. Okay, I said, voice steady. That's enough. Adam laughed through gritted teeth. Now you're mad. I smiled, baring teeth. No. I'm focused. I drove my fist down into his shoulder joint. Not random. Targeted. Controlled. I felt something shift. Not break fully, but loosen. Adam hissed and tried to wrench away. I stayed on him. Adam's free hand struck at my face with a burst of light. It flashed. My eyes stung. I blinked hard, ears flattening for a split second. He used that moment to kick me off. I rolled across the floor, claws scraping, then sprang up immediately, shaking my head once to clear the sting. Adam stood too, spear still in hand, posture now fully engaged. No more lazy stance. No more casual amusement. He was taking me seriously now, and that was the only thing I wanted from him. "You're not supposed to be here," Adam said, voice low. "I know," I replied. He narrowed his eyes. "I'm gonna enjoy making you regret it." I flexed my burned arm once. Pain flared and settled. "Try." The tether pulsed again, hellhounds outside shifting positions, sensing the fight's intensity, wanting to close in. I sent a mental command instantly. "Stay. Do not enter. Hold perimeter." They obeyed. Adam noticed my attention flick for the fraction of a second it took to send it. He grinned. "Talking to your dogs?" "I'm keeping them from eating you," I replied. Adam laughed loud. "I'd like to see them try." I smiled faintly. "They're disciplined. They'd wait until you said something vulgar." Adam's grin widened. "Oh, I'm definitely." I lunged before he could finish. We collided again near the wrecked bar. He swung the spear downward. I caught it with both hands, my claws biting into the shaft, and forced it away from my head. The angelic energy stung, but I pushed through it, muscles tight, teeth clenched. Adam kicked my stomach, trying to break my stance. I absorbed it, sliding back half a step, then drove forward again and head-butted him a second time. His halo flickered slightly. His eyes widened. We separated by a few feet, both breathing hard now. Charlie's voice called out again, strained. "Apex, be careful." I smirked faintly without taking my eyes off Adam. "I heard you." Adam's wings spread wider, and he lowered his spear, preparing another charge. "All right," he said, voice rough with excitement. "Let's see what you've got." I rolled my shoulders, settled my stance, and smiled back at him. "Yeah," I replied. "Let's."